Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wahdah, wassalatu wassalamu ala man la nabiyya ba'dah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman mazida. Amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Jazakumullahu khairan kathira for attending once again another program which Markaz-as-Sunnah Leicester proudly presents, along with all of us at this Masjid-Al in Leicester, who are gladly opening their doors for scholars to visit and share their knowledge with us, and also the students of knowledge and the local du'at as well. Alhamdulillah. This program today, insha'Allah, will be delivered by our respected brother, Al-Akh Al-Fadil, Ali Hassan Khan, who is, masha'Allah, an influential character and somebody who has been very active in the da'wah. Just to give you a little background about him, first of all, he was born in Pakistan and he was raised in France. He currently resides in the UK, and from his teachers where he studied in Pakistan are Sheikh Thana'ullah Madani, who is one of the students of Sheikh Al-Albani, Sheikh Ibn Baz and others, Sheikh Shafiq Ar-Rahman Madani, from whom he studied Sunan Al-Tirmidhi, Sheikh Ramadan Al-Salafi, and many others from the senior scholars of Pakistan, from whom he studied the senior books, the major books of hadith, and many books from all of the Islamic sciences. The brother has, masha'Allah, authored various books as well on different topics, including translating works. For example, he translated Al-Jawab Al-Bahir of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, which is a fatwa he wrote. It was actually the fatwa he wrote which landed Shaykh al-Islam in prison, the same stretch in prison from which he passed away, rahimahullah ta'ala. So this will be the talk, insha'Allah. The topic is titled, Where is Allah? Or the issue of where is Allah? The talk will be delivered in two parts, starting today and completed next month, insha'Allah ta'ala. And the talk will discuss the importance of this topic, the relevance of it, and why we need to discuss it, because it's a topic which is often very misunderstood, and not only misunderstood, but people question the importance of talking about it. So this, inshallah, will be explained, and critical answers and misconceptions will be answered and cleared up bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. And there will be a short time after the talk for questions and answers. However, we are limiting questions and answers to in the written format only. So there'll be a small time afterwards, insha'Allah, for that, and there are pens and papers available to the brothers and the sisters as well. And with that, insha'Allah, I hand over to our brother, insha'Allah, to begin the talk. I would ask the brothers to be patient for the questions and answers, and only limit your questions to those which are relevant and beneficial, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. Inshallah, we'll begin.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Dear brothers and sisters, basically I'm going to do a lecture on the topic Where is Allah? This lecture will be a direct refutation of the lecture delivered by Deobundi Tablighi Maulana Mumtaz al-Haq, who is an Imam in London, and his lecture has been quite shocking on YouTube. Lots of brothers have requested me to give a detailed answer to it. But basically, it's everybody, who's denying Allah being above the arsh, but it is specific to him. Because some people deny Allah being upon the arsh, but they say He's neither upon the arsh nor on the earth. But the Deobundi Mumtaz al-Haq, he said Allah is everywhere, you see. And he brought many arguments for it, and we will refute them. But the arguments basically behind I mean, the arguments and the creed he basically propagated was the creed of Wahdatul Wujud. So that is why my lecture is going to be divided on two topics. It's going to be first a direct refutation of his arguments with the quotes from the Imams of the Salaf. You see on the right side, Sahih Bukhari, Tirmizi, and all the other books of the Salaf, Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Ibn Majah, about what they said where Allah is. And then we're going to have also a refutation of his arguments. I mean, the tafsir of the Quran, the strange tafsir of the Quran he did. And secondly, we're going to speak about the creed of Wahdatul Wujud, because the two topics are interlinked. The creed, what is the creed of Wahdatul Wujud, how it is present in the books of the Deobundi elders, how it is present in Fusus al-Hikam of Ibn Arabi, and I have Fusus al-Hikam with two of his explanation. So basically, I mean, some of the brothers, one of the brother who was formerly a Deobandi, and he spoke a little bit about this to, he used to be former Deobandi, then he mashallah became Alul Hadith. He spoke to Mumtazul Haq also about the topic of Wahdatul Wujud, Ibn Arabi, and he said, yeah, the creed of Wahdatul Wujud is right, and Ibn Arabi is a wali, and there's no problem. Then he asked him if he wanted to debate on the book of Fusus al-Hikam. If you say it is the truth, Fusus al-Hikam, why you don't want to debate it publicly in front of the people what's in this book, that Pharaoh will die upon Iman, the people who worship the calf, the people who worship idols, they only worship Allah. Why you don't want to debate about it and open these books publicly and see what argumentation? But he refused, basically saying there's no point, this and that. So basically the two topics are interlinked. Brother Zulfikar sent me an email and he sent it to me because some of the Deobandis now they're going to say, we don't believe Allah is present everywhere. So the books I'm bringing from them are from the greatest authorities. You see, they're not small Maulanas or Maulvis who have a masjid corners. They're from the biggest elders, you see. Imdadullah Maki, Ashraf Ali Thanvi, Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, who are the main imams of the Deobandi group. And then Ibn Arabi, who is the main caller to it. You see, they've got many other callers like Al-Hallaj, Abdul Karim Jili, many others. But I'm mainly going to go to quote today Ibn Arabi. So inshallah, if I have time today, I'll also mention the second part, which is going to be about Wahdatul Wujud. If there's few time, we can do it in another lecture. So basically, Zulfikar sent me an email, and this is how they deceive, because you'll understand in the lecture about Wahdatul Wujud, they have a Batini religion. Batini means secretive. In front of you, they're going to say something in their books or in their Khanqa. Khanqa is the special place of worship the Sufi have. In Arabic is Zawiya. So they're going to have a speech in the masjid, and they're going to have another speech in the Khanqa or Zawiya, whatever. And some of the speech is, they're going to say for the layman, and some is going to be for the khawas, for the elite. So that's how these people do. They're batini, they have hidden and esoteric knowledge, that's how they call it. So this fatwa, I'm going to just in the introduction just mention it. It's coming from Darul Ulum Deoband, which is the madrasa in India. Darul Ifta at deoband.org. If you go on the fatwa section, and you type fatwa number 32,642, you'll come to this fatwa. It's going to be in Urdu. I'm just going to read it in Urdu, then put it in English first. So 32642 fatwa. Anybody can Google the webpage daruliftadioban.org and go on it and read 32642. So the person asked them, Kya Allah Pak har jagah maujud hai? क्या अल्लाह पाक एक ही वक्त में हर जगह मौजूद है? क्या अल्लाह पाक हर चीज़ में मौजूद है? So is Allah the pure present in every places? Second question, is Allah the pure at every time present in every places? And is Allah the pure हर चीज़ में मौजूद है, present in everything, not only in every places but in everything? And the answer from the muftis of the Darul Ifta, Darul Ulum Deoband, which is the main authority of the Deobandi school, some people can say, they cannot deny this, this is the main authority. They say, about the first question, Ji haan, Allah Ta'ala har jagah mawjood hai. Yes, Allah is present everywhere. Second answer, Ji haan, ek hi waqt mein har jagah mawjood hai. Yes, at the same time, He is present in every places. And the answer to the third question, Allah Ta'ala har cheez mein mawjood hai. Allah Ta'ala is present in everything. ये तमाम उमूर कुरानी आयत से साबित हैं. All these matters are proven by the Quran. So this is their Batini religion, and we're going to have many of their further quotes and show. So some people, they might say, oh, but we don't have a Batini religion, we're not Shia, we don't have secretive teachings, we tell only to our people and we hide it. Okay, this is the book Irshad al-Muluk. It's written by Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, who's the second greatest scholar of the Deobundi after Qasim Nanodvi. It's been translated by themselves, Masjid-Al of South Africa, by the Tablighis. And it's a book written by Rashid Ahmad Gangohi. Like I said, he's considered as the second Imam of the Deobandis after Qasim Nanodvi. He wrote this book into Farsi, and Ashik-i Merathi put it in Urdu, and then it was translated into English. So in this book, they quote a strange hadith attributed to Ali radiallahu anhu, but I'm telling you it's a fake hadith. On page 59, he's saying, Rasulullah ﷺ taught me 70 such avenues of knowledge which did not indicate to others. Meaning I was taught 70 branches of knowledge, only me, he didn't teach it to others. It's a fake hadith. So after he carries on saying, certain knowledge has not been revealed even to the khawas, meaning the particular people. Such special knowledge was awarded to only the Prophet ﷺ. So they're saying the Prophet ﷺ received the knowledge and he only kept it to him. He didn't give it to anyone. No one in the entire creation has been informed of such exclusive knowledge. And then they quote other false hadiths. And then they say there are many different stages of knowledge. How could it be proper for anyone to believe that he has encompassed all knowledge? Then they carry on. So basically they quote this hadith and they say, similarly, some of the knowledge of the Rasul in general is both for the elite and the laity, awam. They say some of his knowledge is for the layman and for the khawas, the elite. The knowledge of the commands, the prohibition, you see the knowledge of the sharia, the fiqh, hadith, how you should pray, what is haram, what is halal. On the other hand, some of his knowledge is exclusively for the khawas. Hence, Sahib Sir, they call Huzaifa ibn Yaman, you see the process of secret, was instructed in such knowledge. And they say also Hazrat Ali. And basically the matters the Prophet told to Huzaifa was relating the tribulations or the fightings between the Muslims. It wasn't about, you see, the knowledge of Tawheed or the knowledge of Aqidah. So basically they are saying that among the teachings of the Prophet they're divided into two. One is for the layman and one is for the khawas. So anybody, they can't say we don't have a Batini religion. This is recorded in their books. They have fake hadith about this. And they have many other sayings in the book of Sufis. I'm going to quote Abdurrahman al-Jami, who's a Naqshbandi scholar. Because when Ibn Arabi says, the Prophet said, there was a house which is, you know the famous hadith, there was a house which is completed, I'm only the last brick to complete it. And they said, the last of the saint, Ibn Arabi says, he saws 2 bricks. And then Abdurrahman Jami explained, he said, because the Khatimul Awliya, the last of the saints, his mission is to disclose these secrets. While the Prophet's mission was not, obviously he knew these hidden secrets, but his mission was to hide them and only to disclose the Sharia. While the Haqiqah, the secret teachings, it is the aim of the Awliya to teach them. So this is Abdurrahman Naqshbandi. And the Tablighis, they're also Naqshbandi and Chistis. He's a big reference for them. We're going to see in his explanation of Fusus al-Hikam, he's going to say that the prophets, they know this secret, but that it is not their mission. They just make some hints to Wahdatul Wujud, which is the unity of existence. We're going to see it's basically they said there's one existence, and the creation is only manifestation. It's not an existence on its own. It's only a reflection in the mirror, a shadow. They're going to say you don't exist, you only think you exist, but actually it's only Allah's existence there. So basically I'm just starting with this. It's a Batini creed, you see. This Batini creed started at the time of the Sahaba, when some of those who did ghulu in Ali, you see, they exaggerated in Ali, they started to worship Ali and consider him as a divinity. Then Ali, like in Sahih Bukhari, he burned them alive. And Ibn Abbas said, oh, he should have killed them, the Zanadiqa, those who say Ali is God. But he shouldn't have burned them because it's Allah's exclusive punishment. Only Allah can punish with the fire. So at this time, the fitna of these people, the Batini, the Shia, it started. They started to consider that Allah was present in Ali. But then it carried on in this region of Iraq, you see Khurasan, all this Iraq and modern day Iran. That's where the Batini mission started. It mixed up Greek philosophy with the Majus and other religions philosophy, and they built up the Batini religion after. Not only the Shia like the 12 Imamids, you have the Ismaili Shia like or the Alawi like in Syria, that they have esoteric. They say we don't believe in Sharia, we have our own system. And even then it came among those who call themselves Sunnis, but it came in the philosophers through Ibn Sina, who was a Batini. Ikhwan Safa were Batinis. They mixed up the concept of Plato and Aristotle and all these different teachings, and they made up this mazhab of Wahdatul Wujud. The first one to proclaim it publicly was Mansur ibn Hussein al-Hallaj, who said, Ana al-Haq, I am the truth. And he was killed around 300 years by all the scholars. They judged him, they asked him question, maybe he's crazy. They've seen he's not crazy. He really believed in this stuff. So they killed him. And the Sufis, they consider him as a martyr because he disclosed this secret and he died for it. And what is funny, in his Tawasin, which has been translated into English, he says, my master are Fir'aun and Iblis. They did not recant. I'm not going to recant from saying Ana al-Haq. I'm ready to die for it. So someone who's saying my master is Iblis and Fir'aun, he is considered by the Sufi as the martyr of the saint, one of the greatest authority. So Al-Hallaj was upon this mazhab. Many other Sufi sects adopted these teachings in the different Turuq Sufiya. And the one who exposed it the most is Ibn Arabi. He clearly, and that's why even many Hanafi scholars, like Mullah al-Qari, Badruddin Aini, Aladdin Bukhari, they said Fusus al-Hikam is a book full of shirk. And I'm going to quote lots of quotes from Mullah al-Qari, who wasn't a Salafi scholar, he was a Hanafi Maturidi scholar, like Sa'd Taftazani as well. They said this is pure kufr. So basically one has to understand that the Brelvi and Deobundi school of thought, they're only propagating these Batini teachings, secretive teachings, and they are propagating the school of Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi. They're only two facets of the same school. They have different interpretation. Like in my books about the Deobandi and the Tablighi Jamaat, I've shown that each, whether it is Wahdatul Wujud, or they believe that the Ghaus, Qutb, Abdal, they control and regulate the universe, or they believe in Nur Muhammadi, they all say, Ashraf Ali Thanvi and others, when they mention the Qutb, they say Ibn Arabi said this on that pages. Ahmad Raza Khan from the Brelvi school, when he mentioned Wahdatul Wujud or his belief in the Ghaus, he also says Ibn Arabi said this about the Ghaus. He said this in his book, Manzil al-Qutb. So basically, one has to understand, many of the Turuq of the Sufi after, they are propagating the same school and they're propagating the same teachings. Like the Naqshbandis, we're going to see Abdurrahman al-Jami, the Shadhilis and others, they're all propagating the same stuff, which is the creed of Wahdatul Wujud. And they're even saying it. You see, the Deobandi in their book, Muhannad al-Mufannad, they have a concept that I've developed in my book. It is Nur Muhammadi. You see, this is a common belief to many Sufis and Brelvis, Deobandis. They said the first thing Allah created was the light of the Prophet. And from the emanation phase of this light, all the rest of the creation came into existence. And this hadith is fabricated. Even the Sufi scholars, they say it's fabricated. They attribute it to Musannaf ibn Abd al-Razzaq. And up to today, they haven't found any authentic manuscript. None of the scholars of the Salaf who had manuscripts of Musannaf Abd al-Razzaq, they quoted it. Even in nowadays, the Brelvis try to fabricate a false manuscript, but when the scholar examined it, they even did scientific research on it. They say it's a recent one. And they found many faults in it, showing it was fabricated. So the Ahlul Hadith, they always, whenever someone fabricates Hadith, they're always going to detect it. So, I mean, the Deobandi, one of the previous director of Dar Ulum Deoband, he has a book called Aftab Muhammadi. In it, he's saying the concept of Nur Muhammadi, and they say that the Prophet's prophethood is Zati. They invented this concept, and they say in Muhammad al-Munfarad, they say our concept of Nur Muhammadi and of this concept about prophethood is taken from, not from the Salaf, it is taken from the Kashf of Ibn Arabi and others. They say so matters based on unveiling, dreams and whatever. And they say, like the former director of Darul Ulum Deobandi in his book Aftab, they're saying like the sun, he is the true star. All the other stars in the universe take their light from the sun. They said they don't have their own lights. And he said likewise the Prophet Muhammad SAW, he was a prophet on his own. His prophethood was Zati. And the prophethood of the other prophets, Ibrahim alayhi salam, Isa, Nuh, Dawood, it was taken from the prophethood by emanation. It is all about Batini created concept in Ibn Sina, Greek philosophy. It has nothing to do with any this reflection. So they say the light of the prophethood reflected in the other prophet and they became prophet. And they say this has nothing to do in the Salaf speech. This is taken from Ibn Arabi's Kashf. And there is a book in English, Mystical Astrology According to Ibn Arabi, written by Titus Bukat, who is a specialist of Ibn Arabi and all this stuff. And he's saying in it, he said, but scientifically, this is false. Because at that time, Ibn Arabi didn't have science. The other stars, they don't take their lights from the prophet, from the sun. They have their own lights. So he said, you see, like the same stuff that Deobundi said in his book After Muhammadi, that the sun is, though it's not the biggest star, he has his light on his own, and the other star take the light from him. But now, even, the specialist of Sufism, they say, okay, this is against science, but is it esoterical knowledge? So it is still truth. At least you should acknowledge that this kashf is false. If it goes against science, it's like the Christians. The stuff in your Bibles that the day and night was created before the sun and the moon. When you know it's against the science, you should say the kashf of Ibn Arabi is false. Actually, it's the kashf of Shaitan. It's Shaitan revealing him this kind of stuff, that the prophet of all other prophets is taken from the emanation of the prophet. It's all a fabricated religion. And still it goes against science. They still propagate it. This is esoterical knowledge you cannot understand. It's quite funny to read such kind of books, but it's a Muhyiddin Ibn Arabi affirm of the sun, the heart of the world, that it communicates lights to all other stars, including the fixed star, and it is itself is illuminated by the direct and incessant irradiation of the divine revelation. So this concept, even the Deobundi, when they write it, they say it's taken from the kashf of Ibn Arabi. And this kashf goes against science. So any person of reason, they should say, look, we should stop teaching this kind of batini, esoteric knowledge that even goes against, it's not present in the book of the Salaf. And it goes against science, and it goes against Quran, Hadith, and it is a batini Shia knowledge. Basically, the Shia in the book say that the Prophet was created from light, and then the light went on to the 12, the descendants, and it is present in the light. So basically, it is a Shia batini teaching. Only Ibn Arabi was the first to bring the Hadith of Jabir. Before him, 500 years, none of the scholars said Allah first created the light of the Prophet, then from it the creation. So all of this is interconnected. It is, like I've quoted before, hidden teachings, esoterical teachings, based on kashf, zawq, taste, and whatever. So this is just an introduction to the topic. And like I've said before, inshallah, for the Wahdatul Wujud, I've got deck quotes about Fir'aun dying upon Iman, the people who worship the idols, people of Nuh. Ibn Arabi said they will be not drowned in the ocean and be punished, but they will be drowned in Allah's unicity. Fi bahr ahadiyati la. Meaning there will be, and the people who explain this, they didn't say, oh, we don't understand. They say, yeah, the people who worship idols, like Abdul Ghani Nablusi, who's a Hanafi scholar, Abdurrahman Jami, who's a Naqshbandi scholars, they say, yes, the people who worship idols, they will be drowned in Allah's unicity. In the ocean of Allah's knowledge, in the ocean of Allah's ahadiyah, pure unicity. And likewise, they say for the people who worship the calf, the Jews who followed Samiri and worship the calves, they say they only worshipped Allah. And then they've got many explanations, and I mean, they've got so much stuff in their books. I mean, they even describe Iblis as a believer, Pharaoh as a believer, Iblis will be forgiven. And like Halaj said, I mean, Iblis and Pharaoh are my masters, are my teachers. So this is the Batini teachings, and they're not ready to debate about these books. But we will have to present it to the layman so they know the reality of the topic and the importance of the topic, why the Salaf insisted on saying Allah is above the Arsh. He's not everywhere. And He's not present in everything. So this is why. I'm going to start now the section of on where is Allah. So basically, the Deobundi Mumtaz Haq, he says that basically the Salafi, they're doing innovations. They're asking where is Allah is an innovation. They're misguiding people. Allah's present everywhere. And they're testing people. And then he quoted, he said the meaning of istiwa is not ascending or rising above. He says this is, and he gave strange meanings. But why? I mean, all the people who have studied in India, Pakistan, or here, who've done Dars Nizami, they all have studied Sahih Bukhari. It is part of the course. Why he didn't quote from the most reliable book, all the Ummah agrees upon, the most reliable book after the Quran is Sahih Bukhari. All the scholars agree above it. And Imam Bukhari, at the end of his Sahih, he's got a chapter entitled Kitab al-Tawheed. And in some manuscript, it comes as Kitab al-Tawheed wa Rad ala al-Jahmiyah. You see? So at the end, he refused the Jahmiyah. And he has a chapter, Bab, وَكَانَ عَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. And Allah, the verse of in Surah Hud, Allah's arsh was upon water. And وَهُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ. And then, you see, Imam Bukhari, he first quotes the name of the chapter, and it has a relevance to the hadith he's going to mention it. Then sometimes he quotes sayings of the Salaf and others, and then he mentions the hadith. So first he said, Qala Abu Aliya, who is a great tabi, a student of Ibn Abbas, and Ibn Abbas, he was among the most knowledgeable Sahabi regarding the tafsir of the Quran. That's why in all tafsir you find the saying of Ibn Masud, Ibn Abbas, and the student of Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, Sayyid Ibn Jubair, Abu Aliya, and others. Qala Abu Aliya, istawa ila samai irtafa'a. So he's saying the meaning of istiwa is irtifa'. Irtifa' means ascending, rising. You can open any Arabic dictionary. وقال Mujahid, student of Ibn Abbas. Istawa ala al-arsh. Ala means elevating. So these two sayings are mentioned in Sahih Bukhari. Why? I mean, you're mentioning a topic and you're not mentioning the saying. You see, it's not quoted by Imam Bukhari through another isnad in a later century, 3rd or 4th, 5th. In other books, it is directly the writings of Bukhari. It is taught in every madrasa in India, Pakistan. He's doing a talk on istiwa. He doesn't even mention Imam Bukhari's saying. So we asked the Deobandis, is Imam Bukhari not reliable for you? The student of Imam Ahmad, of many others, great scholars of the Salaf, Al-Humaydi, Nuaym ibn Hamad. You don't trust Imam Bukhari to transmit you authentic knowledge? He's going to misguide. His book is, and inshallah, maybe in another lecture on Taqlid, we're going to see how the Muqallid, Hanafis, and even the Deobandis, how in some of the books they insulted Imam Bukhari, they insult Imam Shafi'i, and they say Imam Bukhari, they have stories without any isnad saying Imam Bukhari was forbidden by his teachers to give fatwa, he's not faqih, Imam Bukhari this, that, he's muta'assib. Because I mean, Imam Bukhari, he's a muhaddis, you see, he's going to quote authentic hadith, and if they oppose your mazhab, or if he criticized your imam, or weakened him in hadith, or criticized some of the fatwa of Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah, Imam Abu Hanifa, it doesn't mean the... So basically, it's another topic related to taqlid. In some of the books, I'm going to bring them, inshallah, if Allah gives me life. Like Nur al-Anwar, they say Imam Shafi, it's a basic book of usul al-fiqh, it's taught in every Deobandi madrasa, Nur al-Anwar. They say in it, Imam Shafi will not be forgiven on judgment, they be in the chapter Mabahis Ahliyah. And they say for this and this reason. Their books are filled of insult. And Zahid al-Kawthari, he was known He's admired by the Deobandis and he's known as well to insult the Salaf, to say Imam Malik was a criminal, Hafiz ibn Hajar will go to prostitutes, Abu Sheikh is a Mujassim, Daraqutni Mujassim, and he will insult all the Muhaddis. And some of the Deobandis in Pakistan, they do the same. You see, they follow Zahid al-Kawsari, they insult, but this is another topic related to taqlid and the ta'asub. So, but openly, most of the Deobandis are going to say, no, Sahih Bukhari, Imam Bukhari, he's a respected Salaf, we don't insult him, we only insult the Salafi and Ahlul Hadith. But why you don't mention this book you have learned in your madrasa and maybe you even teach it? And after Imam Bukhari mentions many hadiths, but look at the relevance between the hadith and the chapter of it. Imam Shah Waliullah has got a book on it. The relevance between the chapter Imam Bukhari is going to name and the hadith in it and how it is interrelated. So in this chapter, he mentions a hadith of Zainab ibn Jahsh. And it is well-known hadith. She's saying, because basically, it came in the Quran that the Prophet ﷺ told Aisha when Zainab was married to the Prophet's adoptive son, Zayd ibn Harisa Zainab, and then they divorced and Allah told the Prophet ﷺ to marry Zainab. She said, as reported in Sahih Bukhari and many other books, تَقُولُوا زَوَجَكُنَّ أَهَلِكُنَّ, meaning she was saying to the other wives, your family married you to the Prophet ﷺ. وَزَوَّجْنِي اللَّهُ تَعَالَى مِنْ فَوْقِ سَبْعِ السَّمَاوَاتِ, while for me it's Allah who married me to the Prophet ﷺ, مِنْ فَوْقِ سَبْعِ السَّمَاوَاتِ, from above, فوقا, it means above, from above the 7 heavens. So Imam Bukhari has a chapter on istiwa. He said the meaning of istiwa is rising, elevating, and he mentioned this hadith that Zainab used to say Allah is fawqa. So it leaves no doubt about the intent of Imam Bukhari and the intent of and how he understood Zainab's speech. And then he mentions another hadith in this chapter of Zainab bin Jahsh. He said, وَكَانَ تَفْخُرُ عَلَى النِّسَاءِ النَّبِي صلى الله عليه وسلم. She would take pride above the other wives of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. وَكَانَتْ تَقُولُ, she would say, إِنَّ اللَّهَ أَنْكَحْنِي فِي السَّمَاءِ, Allah married me above the heavens. Some people very ignorant about the Arabic language, but they say it's written fi sama, and the word fi means inside. But in the Arabic language, the book that every person who studies in India, Pakistan, they study the book Hidayatul Nahv. I forgot to bring it, I wanted to bring it. And in it, it's written about the word fi in Arabic. It said, most of the time it comes for the meaning of zarfiya, meaning inside, but sometimes it comes with the meaning of ala, meaning above. You see, like Allah said in the Quran, Pharaoh said about the magicians, I will crucify you upon the tree. But he said fi. You see, so and then he quoted in the book Hidayatul Nahv. So any person who studied among the Deobandis and the Brelvis, Nahv, he has studied this book, and this book clearly says sometimes the word fi in the Arabic language comes with the meaning of ala, above. So in the previous hadith, the hadith explains each other. She said fawqa, and in this one, she said fi sama. You see, the hadith explains each other. So this, you see, these are the books on the right side. They're the books of hadith. They are the books, the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the Ahlul Hadith. These are our references. And these Ibn Arabi and all these strange books, these are the Batini books. So it is, upon every layman to choose. And Allah has given us all intelligence to decide between the way of it is in their own books. Nobody can say, oh, but this not this week, or it is written by letter scholars. It is in Sahih Bukhari. And nobody can deny it. And likewise, before going on the other book, we're going to go first on the other books of hadith. This is Tuhfatul Ahwazi, explanation of Sunan Tirmizi. Imam Tirmizi was a student of Imam Bukhari. And he says in his Sunan Tirmizi, again, it is not quote with isnad, it is direct writing of Imam Tirmizi. And like I said, normally all the people study the Sihah Sittah in the madrasa in India, Pakistan. So it is not something hidden to Mumtazul Haq. But why he doesn't want to bring the sayings of the Salaf about it? You have to ask him or the others why they don't want to show from the direct books of the Salaf. So he said in the book, Kitab Tafsir al-Quran, Bab min Surah al-Mujadala. No, it's the previous one. It's Surah al-Hadid. So in his book of tafsir about Surah al-Hadid, Imam Tirmizi say, at the end you see the methodology of Imam Tirmizi is different. I mean, for people who have studied it, he mentions first the hadith and at the end the opinion of the scholars about this hadith. Sometimes he's going to mention about the weakness, authority, and if it's a fiqh issues, he's going to mention the mazhab of the scholars. So he first mentioned the hadith, then he mentioned the explanation of the scholars. And he said in this chapter, وَعِلْمُ اللَّهِ وَقُدْرَتُهُ وَسُلْطَانُهُ فِي كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. The knowledge of Allah, His qudra, His power, His sultan, His authority, فِي كُلِّ مَكَانٍ. It is in every place. وَهُوَ عَلَى الْعَرْشِ كَمَا وَصَفَ فِي كِتَابِهِ. And He, meaning Allah, is upon His throne, like He said in His book, in the Quran. So we have Imam Tirmizi, nobody can deny it. I've given the reference, saying that the knowledge of Allah, His power is in every place. And He Himself is above the throne like He described Himself. So another direct reference, I mean, this is what the Ahlul Hadith, we take our fiqh, our aqidah, everything in these books. They are with the Quran, they are our main references. Now we're going to come to Sunan Abu Dawud. He was a student of Imam Ahmad and others. And it is directly in his book. It is not like Zaid Kosari used to weaken. You see, later scholars, they gather the saying of the Salaf like Lalikai or others. They say, oh, but this not content this one. This one is spoken about this. There's difference. And you see, they try to tashkik, create doubts. But you can't create doubt about these books. They don't come with any isnad. So Imam Abu Dawud, at the end of his Sunan, one chapter before the last chapter of the books of Kitabul Adab, the book of etiquette, the chapter before is Kitab-as-Sunnah. Like Imam Bukhari, he put his last chapter, Kitab al-Tawheed, and in it, he mentions all the attributes regarding the attributes of Allah. I forgot to mention this point. He mentioned the attributes of Allah's hands, the fingers of Allah, Allah laughing, all the other attributes the Jahmiyyah and the Mu'tazila and the Ash'ari deny. So for him, the attributes of Allah, it is related to Tawheed and it is refuting Jahmiyyah. And for these people, they say, oh, but Imam Bukhari and the Salaf, they only quoted this hadith, but they said we leave the meaning to Allah. We do tafweed. We don't know what the meaning is. You see, Allah al-Arsh, we don't know what it means, but we don't just do tawil. But why would they quote this hadith about Allah descending upon every night, or Allah mentioning Allah's foot, Allah's hands, or all this in Kitab al-Tawheed wa Radal al-Jahmiyyah? If this hadith had no meaning, how can they refute the Jahmiyyah? And why in the hadith of the Hash, in Sahih Bukhari, he mentions the word Fawqa, Zainab, and the next chapter, look at the relevance of the next chapter after the chapter of the Harsh. The next chapter is entitled, this is Fathul Bari, so it is Bab Qawlillahi Ta'ala Ta'rujul Malaikatu wa Ruhu Ilay. The angels and the Ruh ascend to him, they rise to him. So after mentioning the chapter of the Harsh, he mentioned this chapter. And then he mentions after the chapter, وَقَوْلِ جَلَّا ذِكْرُهُ إِلَيْ يَسْعَدُ كَلِمُ الطَّيِّبِ. The good speech rises to him. You see, وَقَالَ مُجَاهِدْ الْعَمَلُ صَالِحُ يَرْفَعُ الْكَلِمُ الطَّيِّبُ. So this, وَيُقَالُ ذِي الْمَعَارِجِ, Allah said about in Surah Haqq, ذُو الْمَعَارِجِ, it means الْمَلَائِكَةُ تَعْرُجُ إِلَى اللَّهِ. He's doing tafsir of the Quran, saying Zul Ma'arij, the name of Allah, it means that the angel ascend to him. You see, so after the chapter of Arsh, he mentions this chapter and all the attributes regarding Sifat of Allah. So this shows their creed, and they understood this, and they understood the meaning of it, and they understood this as refuting the Jahmiyyah. So likewise, Imam Abu Dawud, he has a book at the end, it is Kitab-as-Sunnah. And in it, he has a chapter, Al-Jahmiyyah, Bab fil Jahmiyyah. You see, so in it he quotes a long hadith. You see, I'm just going to read you, it's hadith number 4726. I'm only going to read you the end. He says in it, Allah is greater than that. Woe to you. Do you know what Allah is? His throne is above the heavens like this, and he gestured with his fingers like a dome over it. Oh, basically it's not this hadith I wanted to mention, but this one is a weak hadith. It is mentioned by the Salaf, many of the Salaf, that the shape of the arch is in a dome, but it is a weak hadith. The hadith I wanted to mention, it carries on after this one, yeah. Ibn Bashar said in this hadith, he had an addition, Allah is above the throne. You see, when the Prophet ﷺ made a shape of a dome, though it is a weak hadith, but the intent is to show why Imam Abu Dawud brought this hadith against the Jahmiyyah. You see, he said, Allah is above, the hadith says, Allah is above his throne, Inna Allah fawqa arshihi, wa arshuhu fawqa samawatihi. So this hadith, though it is a weak hadith, you see Shaykh Albani, Zubair Aliza and other hadith, they say it's a weak, but the fact that Imam Abu Dawud brought this hadith saying Allah fawqa samawati against the Jahmiyyah, this shows Imam Dawud's understanding of this hadith. Then in the same chapter against the Jahmiyyah, he has another chapter. He has another hadith. And this hadith is also mentioned in Sunan Ibn Majah. So I'm going to do two in one, you see. Sunan Ibn Majah, in the first chapter, contrary to the others, in his first chapter, he has the book Kitab-as-Sunnah. And in the chapter, Ma Ankaratil Jahmiyyah, what the Jahmiyyah denies, he puts all the attributes about seeing Allah, Allah's foot, Allah's hands, and this hadith as well. So in his first chapter, Imam Ibn Majah, Kitab-as-Sunnah, saying about the hadith that the Jahmiyyah denied, they mention this hadith, you see. I mean, it is speaking about the clouds, and then the Prophet said, how much distance do you think there is between the heaven and the earth? The Prophet asked the companions. They said, we do not know. They said, between them is a distance of 71 or 72 or 73 years. So the distance between the earth and the first heaven is 72, 73 years. Then above the seventh heaven, there is a sea. You see, I mean, it carries on. This is the distance between the heavens. Then above the seventh heaven, there is a sea, between whose top and bottom is a distance between one heaven and another. So he's saying above the seventh heaven, there is a sea. Then above that, there are 8 mountain goats. You see, and these 8 goats, I mean, the scholars, when they interpreted this hadith, they say it is referring to the angels, because it is the 8 angels who are carrying the arsh of Allah, the throne of Allah, and they mention in Surah Haqs. This is why Imam Tirmizi also mentioned this hadith, but not against the Jahmiyyah. He mentions this hadith in his book of tafsir of Surah Haqs, in Kitab Tafsir al-Quran, Surah Haqs, about the verse, وَيَحْمِلُ عَرْشَ رَبِّكَ يَوْمَئِذٍ ثَمَانِيَةٍ. This day, 8, meaning 8 angels, will carry the arsh of Rahman. And he quoted this hadith. And he said about this hadith, that this is Hassan Gharib. So according to Imam Tirmizi's research, this hadith was Hassan. But obviously other muhaddithin, other scholars, they weakened it. But I mean, what I'm showing is how the Salaf understood it to refute the Jahmiyyah. Then it says this hadith, okay, there are 7 goats above the 7, that there see 7 goats, that the 8 angels carrying Allah's arsh, and that the distance between their hooves and their knees is like the distance between one heaven and the next. Then on their backs is the throne, and the distance between the bottom and the top of the throne is like the distance between one heaven and another. So this is just the distance between the bottom and the top of the throne. Then at the end, this is the relevant part against the Jahmiyyah. Then Allah is above that, may He be blessed and exalted. ثم Allah Ta'ala فوق ذلك. So Imam Abu Dawud, you see Sheikh Zubair Ali weakens this hadith. He says that it has, one of the narrator didn't listen from the other one, and another one has got some ikhtilat. But it's not a big, it's not someone accused of lying or someone accused of fisk. It is just some disconnection and some, not severe weakness. But for Abu Dawud, this hadith, Ibn Majah, they all quoted this, and many other Salaf in their books, they quoted this hadith against the Jahmiyyah. And the wording is, ثُمَّ اللَّهُ تَعَالَى فَوْقَ ذَلِكَ, meaning above the 7 heavens, the Arsh, Allah is above it. So they connected the Arsh and Allah being above it. You see, they didn't say Allah fi kulli makan, or we don't know, Allah is neither there nor there, He doesn't exist. This is the, like the atheist, when they would say Allah doesn't exist, neither here, neither, this is actually atheism. So this is the creed of the Salaf, you see. There are much more quotes from the Salaf, because you see, they accuse us, Ahlul Hadith, you don't respect the Imams, you don't do taqlid, you don't respect the Imams. But who are not giving their teachings and who are turning away from their clear books, even so, and they're teaching these books of the Salaf. So I'm going to mention not many narrations from the book Al-Ulu of Imam Zahabi with the notes of Sheikh Albani, just of the few, because you see lots of these books, because they're not direct references, they're going to have isnads, and then the Neo-Jahmiyyah Qasridis, they're going to speak, oh no, but this narrator, that. So I'm just going to mention some few that even them, they agree to be authentic. You see, the Deobundis and the followers of Zahid al-Kawthari. But before this, you see, these are some hadiths, like the hadith of Zainab ibn Jahsh and others. They say, Allah fi sama, Allah fawqa sama. And there are many other hadiths. It's not just 1 or 2. There are many hadiths from the Prophet ﷺ in which he says, fi sama, fawqa sama. The Sahaba says, fi sama, fawqa sama. The Salaf have written books about it. You see, many have compiled these narrations in their book, in Refutation of the Jahmiyyah. But, so first, Mumtazul Haq Deobundi, he says istiwa doesn't mean that. Istiwa means whatever he ta'wil, taking after, looking after, turning to, and he didn't mention the tafsir of the Salaf or their books, tafsir Tabari, any early tafsir. Then he says, oh, the Salafi, they have the hadith about Al-Jariyah, the free slave girl. And this hadith, he mentioned the narration about this. You see, a slave girl, something happened to her. She went, his owner went to the Prophet ﷺ, and then he said, and she couldn't speak. And she said, where is Allah? She pointed towards the sky. You see? And he quoted this hadith, which is in Musnad Ahmad and other books. And he said, oh no, because she was new to Islam and she couldn't, whatever ta'wil that was at Qasri, she just showed that Allah is not something among the idols, so she is something different from the idols, so she only pointed to the sky, but she didn't mean Allah was above the sky. When you are going to present a case, you bring your stronger evidence. You see, if you have a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim, and the same hadith with different words in the Sunan or the Musnad Imam Ahmad, you're going to bring the Sahih Bukhari or Muslim, won't you? So he mentioned this wording of Imam Ahmad, he could do ta'wil, strange extrapolation, but he didn't bring the narration of Imam Muslim. And the words of Imam Muslim, they're well known to you. The Prophet Muawiyah ibn Hakam al-Sulami, because her slave girl was looking after the sheep, the wolf came he's 8-1, and then he smacked her on the face. And then obviously he felt bad, felt remorse. He went to the Prophet, what should I do? And the Prophet said, I will test her. And he asked her, where is Allah? And she said, Fis sama. You see, like in the hadith of Zainab ibn Jash, Fis sama. And he said, why? He said, the Messenger of Allah. And Prophet ﷺ said, free her because she's a believer. So Mumtazul Haq, when you want to refute someone's opinion, like in fiqh or whatever, and his main argument is in Sahih Bukhari Muslim, you mention the strongest narration and then you explain it. You don't go to Musnad, try to refute Musnad Ahmad and just close your eyes on Sahih Muslim. And even the Hanafi scholars, Mullah Ali Qari Badruddin Aini, they say sometimes, when talking about fiqh and defending Hanafi fiqh, they say, but the wordings of Bukhari and Muslim are thus, and they should be given preference over the wordings in the Sunan and the Musnad and the Mu'jam and other books. So when you want to refute someone, you should bring his strongest dalil. You shouldn't bring the lowest and then try to extrapolate it. But why did Mumtazul Haq did not mention this hadith with this wording, and Imam Muslim it is agreed upon? You see, none of the scholars, 16 of the Salaf, more than 16 quoted it, this hadith. Some even quoted it against the Jahmiyyah. None of them weakened them. Even the Ash'ari scholars, Qazi, Iyad, Nawawi, they're not properly, but there's discussion properly, Ash'ari. They didn't weaken this hadith. None. Only Zahid al-Kawthar in this century, he said, the words of Muslim are not right and those of Ahmad are stronger. Some others, they say, there is, like no Hamim Keller, there is iftirab, meaning contradiction in it. But every person of knowledge knows there's only contradiction when the two hadiths are of the same level. If one is the strongest level and one is lowest level, how can you establish contradiction? And there's no contradiction between them. But just to explain this, Sheikh Albani about the hadith, about pointing, he says it's weak, he's got a narrator who's weak. Other scholars like Ibn Khuzaymah, they say there are two different events. There are two different events, and there are two different slave girls. One, she couldn't speak and one could speak. The one who couldn't speak pointed to the sky, and the one in Muslim, she could speak, she said, Fi sama. And so when you can gather the two hadiths, or you can give tarjih, preference to one, what you want to, this is the people of Mu'tazili and the Ahlul Rai, they want to destroy Sunnah with their weak intelligence. So this word fi sama. Now, imagine, the Prophet ﷺ, Allah described him in the Quran as being, fearful for the believers, loving them, harisun alayhim, bil mu'minina ra'ufur rahim. And he asks a question to a slave girl, and she said, Allahu fi sama. And the word fi, like I've said, even in the Deobundi books of Nahu grammar, fi comes with the meaning of Allah, above. You have a slave girl saying to you, Allah is above the arsh. And if this meaning implied any wrong belief, like Mumtazul Haq saying Salafi are misguiding the people, if the Prophet would have closed the door to, you see, Prophet in many hadiths, if you read, sometimes he would say, people asked him about fasting to do avod in the Jahiliyyah. Should I do it? Prophet said yes, but then he said, but this place, people used to worship idols there. He was making sure, you see, there was no bad meaning in it, or there was no, you see how you do it. You see, he would clarify, what do you mean you're doing this, but would the people of Jahiliyyah, was this place considered? Then he would agree or not. He's not. So if he approved our statement and it contained any doubt, would the Prophet ﷺ leave us in a doubt and say, you have a statement, it could be, it could imply a wrong belief? Can someone, the Prophet ﷺ approved us, said, free her, she's a believer. You see, so the Prophet approved us saying, and it is not only in this hadith, many other books of Salaf, and I'm going to quote other hadiths, they mention the Salaf, Abu Bakr, Umar, sometimes pointing at the sky, sometimes saying, Fawqa sab'a samawat, sometimes saying, Fi sama. So likewise, it is mentioned in Abu Dawud and Tirmizi, the Prophet said, Arahimuna yarhamur Rahman. irhamu man fil ardi yarhamukum man fis sama. So the people who show mercy, Allah will show, Ar-Rahman will show mercy to them. Give mercy upon the people of the earth, and man fis sama, the one above the heaven will give mercy to you. So you see, in this one is the same. In other hadith, by Bukhari and Muslim, he said, "Ala ta'mununi wa ana aminun man fi samai ya'tini khabru samai sabahan wa masa'an." So he's saying, it's about, some people they didn't agree with the Prophet's decisions and they didn't trust him, some people. And he said, do you not trust me? Well, I'm trusted by man fi sama, by the one who is above the heaven. So it is not only in this hadith, in many other hadiths. In other hadith of Abu Huraira in Sahih Muslim, he says, Prophet said about a husband who invites her wives and she refuses to come. He said, there's no wife who does this except that إِلَّا كَانَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ سَاخِطًا عَلَيْهَا حَتَّى يَرْضَ عَنْهَا زَوْجُهَا. He said, if she refused to, then الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ will be angry upon them until her husband is satisfied with her. So again, it is in Sahih Muslim. Nobody can deny its authenticity. And there are many other hadiths you see saying about when the soul of the dead in Musnad Ahmad and Hakim will go above, and if the one of the believer, it will go above the one heaven, second heaven, and others, and then it will reach the sama allati fiha Allah ta'ala, meaning then it will reach the heaven above which is Allah. So there are many hadiths. The hadith of Isra wal Mi'raj, Prophet ascended, many other hadiths having these words. So you see, it is not only one hadith or one verse. He said, oh, there's only Siwa and this hadith. It is many hadiths. These are only those in Sahih Bukhari, Muslim, and the Salaf. They had many others, and it's going to take too much time to expand on them. But just a small summary I've done. And in the Quran, there's not only the word istiwa. There are many other words. So first, I'm going to mention some verses, then I'm going to mention some saying of the Salaf. Some directly in their books. You see, nobody can deny them, scholars of the 3rd, 4th, 5th century. But first, after seeing the saying of the Muhaddis, we're going to see some saying in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Mulk, أَأَمِنْتُمْ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاءِ أَنْ يَخْسِفَ بِكُمُ الْأَرْضُ فَإِذَا هِيَ تَمُورُ. And the translation of the verse, it is not the Salafi translation. It is the English translation done by the Deobundis of the tafsir of Mufti Shafi Uthmani, the father of Taqi Uthmani, who is one of the greatest authority in Deobundi. His tafsir is Ma'arif al-Quran. Anybody can download its PDF, 8 volumes online. You Google it, Ma'arif al-Quran, Mufti Shafi Uthmani. You can download it, check it, and read it. So the explanation, the tafsir I'm going to read is a Deobandi tafsir. And now I'm going to ask the Deobandi layman, don't you trust your own scholar of tafsir? You consider him as Chief Justice of Pakistan? So it's not a small Maulvi, it's a big authority of the Deobandis, Ma'arif al-Quran, and it's their own translation, it's not mine or Salafi. So he said about this verse in Surah Mulk, have you become fearless of him who is in the sky? If he makes you sink into the earth and it starts trembling at once? So this is the 16th verse of Surah Al-Mulk. And there's another one, the next verse. The explanation is, according to Mufti Shafi Uthmani, though Allah has granted the earth such a balanced infrastructure that man cannot go into it without digging it, yet Allah has the power to make the earth swallow up all the communities living on its surface. So Mufti Shafi Uthmani said, Amintum man fis sama. Have you become fearless of him who is in the sky? He says it's Allah. He doesn't say it's the angels who is in the sama or someone else. He said Allah. It means though Allah has granted you a good balance, but He can destroy it. The next verse warns people of another type of punishment. أَأَمِنْتُمْ مَنْ فِي السَّمَاءِ أَنْ يُرْسِلَ عَلَيْكُمْ حَاسِبًا فَسَتَعْلَمُونَ كَيْفَ نَذِيرٌ. Or have you become fearless of Him who is in the sky if He loses a violent wind with stones against you? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying to the people, have you become fearless of man fi sama, of the one above the heavens? So Mufti Usmani explained this. So you will soon come to know how was my warning. In other words, they at the moment feel secure that the Supreme Being in the heaven. This is the words of Mufti Usmani. The Supreme Being in the heaven will not release against them a certain squall of stones together with violent wind. Soon they will realize how true the divine warning was. So this explanation of these verses in Surah Al-Mulk by Mufti Usmani, he said the Supreme Being above the sky, it's Allah, you see. And likewise, you see there is this verse, there are many other verses. Like the incident between Fir'aun and Musa, the Salaf, they quoted these verses against the Jahmiyyah, you see. وَقَالَ فِرْعَوْنُ يَا أَيُّهَا الْمَلَوُ مَا عَلِمْتُ لَكُم مِّنْ إِلَهٍ غَيْرِي فأوقد لي يا هامان على التين فاجعل لي صرحا لعلي أطلع إلى إله موسى وإني لأظنه من الكاذبين. This is mentioned in Surah Al-Qasas, verse 38. Also, there's a similar verse in Surah Ghafir. Fir'aun said, O chiefs, I know not that you have an ilah other than me. And then he said, O Haman, take bricks out of clay and set up a sarhan, make a tower, in order that I may look and reach the God of Musa. وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّهُ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ. And verily, I think that he, Musa, is one of the liars. So he said to Haman, you don't have, to his people, you don't have any other deity except me. And then he said to his Haman, build a tower so I can reach the ilah of Musa, but I believe him to be a liar. The scholars of tafsir, you see, like Tabari and the other Salaf, many other books of tafsir, like, Salaf, Ibn Khuzaymah, Ibn Abd al-Bar, Usman Darimi, Ibn Qudama, Zahabi, they all said this is clear that the Prophet Musa alayhi salam told him that the true divinity is above the heavens. That's why he had the idea of building a tower. He wouldn't have the idea of building a tower and this is why he said at the end, I believe you to be a liar. And this is told by Tabari and all the scholars of the Salaf, many others, that he only said, such Ibn Abd al-Bar, they said, he only said this because Musa told him that Allah is above the heaven. And even Abu Lays al-Samarqandi, who's a Hanafi scholar, he has a famous book of tafsir, Bahr al-Ulum. He said about the tafsir, وَإِنِّي لَأَظُنُّهُ مِنَ الْكَاذِبِينَ أي أحسب موسى بما يقول أن في السماء إلها من الكاذبين. He explained this verse that I think Musa and what he's saying that there is a deity above the heaven is from the liars. So even the Hanafi scholars of the 4th century, you see, before the later ones who had more ta'wil, he said yes, Musa told him Allah was above the heaven. And that's how the scholars like Tabari and the scholars of the Salaf understood this. So then, now after mentioning these others, I will mention some of the saying of the Salaf that they themselves agree to be authentic. I'm not gonna, those narrations you see, they have any excuse to speak and find an extrapolation or deny its authenticity. So Imam al-Awza'i, you see from the Tabi'in, from the followers of the Tabi'in, he said, and this is narrated by al-Bayhaqi, who is an Ash'ari scholar. It's narrated by al-Bayhaqi and many others, you see Usman Darimi and many other scholars in their book against the Jahmiyyah. But Well, this narration is very good because it is narrated by Al-Bayhaqi in his Asma wa Sifat. And he's an Ash'ari scholar, so he's not purely a Salafi scholar. And the Isnad is authentic, and he's speaking about all the Tabi'i. He's not speaking about his own opinion. And he said, Kunna wa tabi'una mutawafirun. We were, at the time, the Tabi'i, the student of the Sahaba were many. You see, it wasn't late after the time. At the time of the Tabi'i, we used to say, Kunna wa tabi'una al-mutawafirun naqulu inna Allah azza wa jalla fawqa arshihi. Allah glorified is above his arsh. So this is the opinion of Imam Rawza'i, this is the opinion of all the Salaf. And this isnad, it has only great Imam from the greatest of the Siqat. None can deny its authenticity of Imam al-Rawza'i. So likewise, I will quote another narration of Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, who used to be Hanafi, and then he became, according to the madhab of Ahlul Hadith, though the Ahnaf are going to deny this, but even Qazi Iyad, he said in his book Tartib al-Madarik that he left the Hanafi mazhab. But this is another topic. Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, he's saying, and this is again narrated in Asma Sifat and other books of, this is again narrated by Imam al-Bayhaqi and by many of the Salaf. You see, this is like Hafiz ibn al-Qimjuzah, this is like mutawatir coming from Abdullah, from many of the Imam Ahmad's sons, Abdullah ibn Ahmad in his book of Sunnah, and many others of the Salaf, Khatib al-Baghdadi, many others mentioned it. It comes like a mutawatir. You see, none, even them, the Qasari people and the Deobundis, that do not deny its authenticity. And he said, he was asked, كيف نعرف ربنا عز وجل? How should we know our Lord? And he said, في السماء سابع على عرشه. He said, above the seventh heaven, upon his throne. ولا نقول كما تقول الجهمية, and we do not say like the Jahmiya say, إنه ها هنا في الأرض. He is there upon the earth. And then there's similar sayings of, in one of the narrations, Shaykh Albani points, he says, Allah is above his arsh. The narration of Ishaq ibn Rahawayah from Ibn al-Mubarak, he says, above his arsh, ba'inun min khalqi, separate from his creation. So not only is above his arsh, but he's separated from creation. And they say he's everywhere, he's mixed up within creation and everything. So this narration is clear. I mean, there are many similar narrations by many others, Imam of the Salaf. People have written books, Hafiz Zahabi, Hafiz ibn al-Qimjuzah, Ibn al-Qudama. Many others have written books gathering all these narrations. The Salaf, I mean, Usman Darimi, his book, Ibn Abi Hatim, Lalikai, Imam Sabuni, many others have written. But because in a lecture we can't speak about all the narrations, but this is just the stronger, one among the strongest sayings of the Salaf regarding this topic. Now, after this, we're going to come to the books written by the Salaf. You see, Ibn Qutaybah, he's a scholar of the 3rd century, he was born in 213. He has a book, Tawil Mukhtalaf al-Hadith. You see, it doesn't need, I mean, Zahid Qasari cannot deny this or the other people speaking about the Isnad and others. He's saying, how can you say that Allah is everywhere when he said, the most gracious has done istiwa on the throne? Then he said to him, ascend the good words. How can anything that ascend unto him be with him? How can you say Allah is everywhere? How can the angel and the spirit ascend unto him where they are with him? If these people were to go back to the fitra and the nobility didn't hinder them from knowing the Creator, they would have known that Allah is the High, the Most High, and that the hands raise up in dua towards him. As all the ummah, the Arab and non-Arab, I like say, Allah is above the sky. Inna Allah fis sama. This is written in his book. Ibn Qutaybah says, how can the Jahmiyyah say he's present everywhere? Well, the fitra, all the people, the Arab Ajam, they used to say, تقولوا إن الله في السماء. So this is the saying of Ibn Qutayba. After we're going to go to the saying of we're going to go to the saying Hafiz ibn Abdul Bar in his book Tamhid, great Maliki scholars of the 3rd century. He's saying the same. He quoted many quotes. He said in his book Tamhid, and also from the proof that Allah is above the throne, above the 7 heavens, is that the believers, all of them, Arabs, non-Arab, when a matter concerns them or difficulty befalls them, they raise their faces to the heaven and direct their raised hands to the heaven, seeking succor from Allah their Lord. And this is common among the general masses as well as the elite. And the Prophet said to the slave girl who master wished to free her if she was a believer, so the Prophet tested her asking, where is Allah? So she pointed to the heaven. You see, so this is directly from Ibn Abdul Bar. Great authority among the Salaf, great Maliki scholar, great Muhaddis. This is not like Mumtazul Haq saying the Salafi by asking the question, where is Allah, doing a bid'ah. They are misguiding the youth, they are misguiding people. This is Hafiz. Look, okay, we are misguided, but what about these scholars? Why don't you say Ibn Abdul Bar, Ibn Khuzaymah, Ibn Manda, Ibn Qutayba, they're all misguided. But because this is how these people are. If they say, all these scholars said this, the layman, they would say, okay, there's a problem. So they're not going to mention all these scholars from the Salaf. Look, Abdullah ibn, not only, okay, we're going to carry on. Muhammad ibn Ishaq ibn Manda, from the 4th century, Hanbali scholar, he said, directly in his book, just 1 second, because I want to quote the Arabic as well. He has Ibn Manda. He has in his Kitab Tawheed, it is published today, it is not in manuscript, it's published. He has a chapter entitled Biyan Akhir Yadulu ala Anna Allah Ta'ala Fawqa Arshihi Ba'inan an Khalqihi. Another chapter showing that Allah Ta'ala is Fawqa Arshi, above his throne, Ba'inan an Khalqihi, separated from his creation. Because when the Jahmiyyah, the Sahaba and others, they used only to say Allah is above the Arsh. Because that was enough, everybody understood this. But when the Jahmiyyah, they started to say no, Allah is everywhere, then they added the word, many Salaf, ba'inan, separated from creation. So, because they used to speak to people in the century 3rd, 4th, the Jahmiyyah Mu'tazili was spreading their fitna, so they clarified the matter, so nobody can say this is invented, you see, upon these Imams. Ibn Battah al-Uqbari, another Hanbali scholar, he was born in 304. He has a book, Al-Ibana. You see, it's directly from his book. And he said, Al-Iman bi anna Allah Ta'ala ala arshihi ba'inun min khalqihi wa ilmuhu muhitun bi khalqihi. He said that Allah is chapter, Allah being above his arsh, separated from the creation, and his knowledge is encompassing his creation. So, and then he has many saying, he says in this chapter, the Muslim from the Sahaba and the Tabi'in have reached a consensus that Allah is on his throne, above the heavens, separate from his creation. As for his saying Allah, he is with you, wa ma'akum, it is referring to his knowledge, as the scholars have explained. So this is again Ibn al-Battah al-Uqbari. He was born in 304. So at the beginning of the 4th century, he writes a book, Al-Ibana, and he says this. This is Zahid al-Kawthari, Mumtazul Haq. They cannot deny the Salaf saying this. Their books are published, their manuscripts are present in the Maktaba Zahiri and other places. So nobody in India and in all other places. So like Abul Qasim at-Tabarani, the author of the Mu'jam, he's got a chapter as well in his Kitab Sunnah about, he said, Bab ma ja fi istiwa Allah Ta'ala ala arshi bahinun min khalqihi. Same. And then he mentions all these hadiths like Abu Dawud and others. You see about Allah, the 8 angels carrying the arsh in shape of goats. And though the hadith is weak, but he mentions it in a chapter. ما جاء في استواء الله تعالى على عرشه باين من خلقه. So Abu Qasim Tabarani, saying he was born in 260, it's directly in his book. Abu Bakr al-Ajuri, Hafiz Abu Sheikh, great muhaddis, you see, born in 274. In his book Al-Azama, which is published today by with the tahqiq of Indian scholar Razala Mubarak Puri, Zikr Arsh Rabbi Ta'ala, wa Ulu Rabbi Fawqa Arshihi. So again he mentions the same hadith, and Zahid al-Qurashiri, he used to say, oh, these muhaddis of the second, third, they are mujassim. But the Deobundi don't like to, like Zahid al-Qurashiri say, but you have to decide in front of the layman. Either you say these muhaddis of the second, third are misguided, mujassim, or you have to explain this to the layman. You see, you can't say, oh, we respect the Salaf, the Ahlul Hadith are disrespecting the Imams, we love the Imams. But for the creed, they don't take from the Imams, they take from Ibn Arabi. Allah is everywhere. Like say Abu Ahmad al-Asal, great muhaddis, in his book Al-Ma'rifah, he said the same. And he mentions the saying of the scholar, the Salaf, the saying of Ibn al-Mubarak in his Kitab al-Ma'rifah, and the saying of Ibn Masud, وَالْعَرْشْ فَوْقَ مَا وَلَوْ عَزَّ وَجَلْ فَوْقَ عَرْشِهِ لَا يَخْفَى عَلَيْهِ شَيْءٍ مِّنْ أَعْمَالِكُمْ. So this is a Hassan hadith of Abdullah ibn Masud, and this is, and what is, strange is even Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi in his Aqidah, which is a famous book of creed. He says in Aqidah Tahawiyah, when speaking about Allah, just 1 second, because I want to quote the Arabic as well, because it is more relevant to the topic. Because he's one of the great authority of the Ahnaf, one of the greatest muhaddis, Abu Ja'far al-Tahawi. So I'd like to, he says as well that Wallahu fawqahu, meaning above his throne. When he speaks about the throne, he said Allah, he does not need the throne, he's not dependent on it, but he is muhitun bi khalqihi, meaning he's encompassing his creation. We're going to see later on how Ibn Taymiyyah explained the meaning of Allah encompassing the muhitun bi khalqihi. Inshallah, we have the Risala Arshiyah of Ibn Taymiyyah, Risala al-Arshiyah, Kitab al-Arsh wal-Ihata. We're going to see the meaning. So he said, Allahu muhitun bi khalqihi wa fawqahu. This is Abu Ja'far Tahawi, who says this in his book of Aqidah, which is taught by all the even Salafi universities in Saudi Arabia and in India, Pakistan, Sheikh Ibn Baz. When in the university in Pakistan, the first one after when Pakistan was made, the first university, Jamia Salafiyah Faisalabad, was made, and Sheikh Ismail Salafi talked to Sheikh Ibn Baz. Sheikh Ibn Baz then managed the funds by the authorities, and Sheikh Ibn Baz participated to the books that should be studied in it. And he said you should put Tahawiyah and also other books like Fathul Majid and others. And then after it was made, he sent Sheikh Abdul Mohsin al-Abbad to Faisalabad and others. So this book, it is not only studied in India, but it's also studied by the Deobundis. So he said in it, Allah muhitun bi khalqihi wa fawqahu. This is not something invented by the Maliki. This is the early Hanafi authorities, one of the greatest muhaddis, faqih, imams. He also says the same. So then not only, what is strange is, not only they said this, but then when the Jahmiyyah spread their fitna, the Salaf used other terms. First we have seen ba'inun an khalqi, separated. Then they used the expression bidhatihi. They said Allah is present on his arsh bidhatihi. They had to add this word because of the fitna of the Jahmiyyah saying Allah is everywhere. Like Abdullah ibn Abi Zayd al-Qarawani, he has a book, a Risala, and it's a book of fiqh, but the first chapter is relating to creed. This chapter has been translated now into English. with the explanation of Sheikh Najmi, and he says in his Risala, إِنَّهُ فَوْقَ عَرْشِهِ الْمَجِيدِ, Allah is above his noble throne, بِذَاتِهِ, by essence, وَهُوَ فِي كُلِّ مَكَانٍ بِعِلْمِهِ, and he is in every place by his knowledge. So no, there's no isnad. It's a direct book of Imam al-Qayrawani, who was one of the greatest authority of among the Malikis. They used to call him the second Imam Malik. You see, these are books from the Salaf. You see, how can the people say the Salafi are misguiding the people? Why don't say Imam al-Qayrawani and others are misguiding the people? And I will just finish for the last quote. After, inshallah, we're going to start refuting the claims made by Mumtaz al-Haq. The last book I'm going to quote is Kitab Tawhid of Ibn Khuzaymah, one of the great Shafi Muhaddis. He says in his Kitab Tawhid, it is published, فَتِلْكَ الْأَخْبَارُ كُلُّهَا دَالَةٌ عَلَىٰ أَنَّ الْخَالِقَ الْبَارِ فَوْقَ سَبْعَ سَمَاوَاتِ. He says all these narrations show that Allah is above the seven earths. لا على ما زعمت المعطلة, not like those who deny the attribute of Allah, أن معبودهم, that the object of worship, هو معهم في منازلهم, that the object of worship is in their houses. We do not say like the Mu'attila say that the Mahbud, the worshipped, is in their houses. Then he says in another chapter, he says in his Kitab Tawhid, I had to underline the exact quote. Anyway, I mean, inshallah, we have seen the other quote saying, refuting the Jahmiyyah. But again, like I said, he said in the other chapter, he clearly refuted the Jahmiyyah, saying Allah is present in the houses. And this is, I mean, Zahid al-Kawthari, he used to quote from Fakhruddin Razi, saying this is not a Kitab Tawhid, this is Kitab al-Shirk. But normally the Deobundis, they don't like Zahid al-Kawthari to insult the scholars, and they want to portray themselves as orthodox Sunnis, traditional Sunnis. Is Ibn Khuzaymah, a great imam from the Salaf, not reliable for you? Or is Ibn Arabi more reliable, the one who said Fir'aun died upon Iman and something else? So now we're going to come to the arguments brought by Mumtaz al-Haq. Okay. He said, he quoted the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. This is in Surah Qaf, verse 16. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is saying, and we are nearer to him than in his jugular vein. So he's saying Allah is nearer to the jugular vein, meaning he is present everywhere. He's there. So again, I'm going to quote from, and I'm going to let the Deobundi themselves decide if the tafsir done by Mumtaz al-Haq is an orthodox, traditional tafsir. The Mufti Muhammad Shafi, in his Ma'arif al-Quran, volume 8, page 156 of the English translation, says, the closeness in this verse by consensus of scholars refers to nearness in terms of all-encompassing knowledge. He said the nearness, the proximity here, according to all scholars, it is proximity referring to knowledge, not in terms of physical closeness. In this manner, the verse means that Allah's power and knowledge has so encompassed man from within, and without that, his power and knowledge is nearer than his jugular vein. So this is not my explanation. This is the explanation of Chief Justice Muhammad Shafi, the father of Taqi Uthmani. Then after this, he mentioned some Sufi explanation of Sufi, Jalaluddin Rumi and others, that also the Sufi said that some Sufis have a special link with Allah which cannot be explained. But he said this is only for those who worship a lot. So we don't believe in this kind of belief. But first he mentioned the saying of the scholars, then he went on to mention the saying of, like he called them, Tafsir Mazari and Jalaluddin Rumi. But he said, we have learned earlier the interpretation of the majority of the commentators that it is not a physical proximity, but rather the all-encompassing full and complete knowledge of Allah. And then he says after, Ibn Kathir interprets it in a third way. He says that the pronoun we does not refer to the being of Allah, but to his angel who are at all time with man. So they know man's soul so closely than man himself, that man himself is not so well aware of it. Allah knows best. So after mentioning that the saying of all scholars that it is proximity of knowledge, he then says, okay, some Sufi, they said the servant who do lots of worship, they have some kind of connection with Allah, but we cannot explain it without any cave. But then he said there's a third explanation, and that the term نحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد, نحن refers to the angels. And the third one, like explained by Shaykh al-Islam Ahmad ibn Taymiyyah in his book Sharh Hadith Nuzul, this is the right one. Because Allah said afterwards, إذ يتلقى المتلقيان عن اليمين وعن الشمال قعيد ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد. So this is the next verse. When the two receivers, so we are closer to him when the two receivers, meaning recording angels, receive, one sitting on the right and one on the left, to note his or her action. Not a word does he utter, but there is a watcher by him ready. So the proximity mentioned here, it is not absolute. It is particularized at this time. إذ, when يتلقى المتلقيان. You see? The time when the angel received, one sitting at the right one, and if, like Shaykh Islam says, if the meaning was proximity of the essence, meaning of the Lord, meaning if the meaning was Allah is closer by his essence to the jugular vein, this would not be particularized to this time when the angel received. Is يتلقى, you see the verse carries on. نحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد إذ يتلقى when, you see it is particularized with the time. So if Allah it is not particularized Allah's knowledge and Allah's power. And there would not be any relevance to mention the sitting of the two angels, and there won't be any correspondence, you see. So we have to properly, to understand tafsir, we have to read the verses before, the verse after, see the relevance between munasaba, and then interpret. And this saying, like Mumtaz quoted this verse, and this is the right verse. In this verse, it is Allah, the angels are closer to the person's jugular vein. And likewise in Surah Al-Waqi'ah, Mumtaz quoted it as well. فَلَوْلَا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُومِ وَأَنْتُمْ حِينَئِذٍ تَنْظُرُونَ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْكُمْ وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Then why do you not intervene when the soul of the dying person, in brackets, reaches the throat? When the soul reaches the throat, why don't, Allah says to the people, why don't you interfere? And you, at the moment, are looking on, but we are nearer to him than you, but you see not. نحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون. Here as well Ibn Taymiyyah says نحن is the angels, because at this time is the angel of death when the soul comes here who are ready to pick it, you see. Likewise in the other argument, Ibn Taymiyyah says if Allah intended the proximity of his noble essence, why would he particularize it to this time when the soul reaches you see your neck, al-hulqum, the throat. And at the end, you see, this is the beginning, إِذَا بَلَغَتِ الْحُلْقُمْ, and at the end, it is said, وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ, meaning, but you see not. And Ibn Taymiyyah says, but as this is the words you see not, this is only said when there is something that is permissible to be seen. In some conditions, meaning you can see it, but we don't see it. You see, it's only permissible to say, but you see not, if there was something there to be seen. Meaning the angels are invisible, but you see them not. And Allah cannot be seen in any way in this condition. You see, so he's saying the words at the end. وَلَكِنْ لَا تُبْصِرُونَ, meaning you cannot see. It only refers to the angels, it cannot refer to Allah. And he says, and also, what shows the truth of this saying, he used the pronoun, the plural form, nahnu. He didn't say, I am closer to his jugular vein. He says, nahnu. And there are many other verses who Allah uses the plural form and they have a different meaning as using the singular form. Like in the verse, نَتْلُو عَلَيْكَ مِن نَبَإِ مُوسَى وَفِرْعَوْنَ بِالْحَقِّ لِقَوْمِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. We recite to you some of the news of Musa and Fir'aun in truth for people who believe in Surah Qasas. And Allah says likewise, نَحْنُ نَقُصُ عَلَيْكَ أَحْسَنَ الْقَصَصِ بِمَا أَوْحَيْنَا إِلَيْكَ هَذَا الْقُرْآنِ. In Surah Yusuf verse 3 again, we relate unto you. It's not I relate, it's we relate. And likewise in Surah Al-Qiyamah verses 17 and 19, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا جَمَعَهُ وَقُرْآنَهُ فَإِذَا قَرْأْنَاهُ فَاتَّبِعْ قُرْآنَهُ ثُمَّ إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا بَيَانَهُ. It is for us, you see, عَلَيْنَا, plural form, to collect it and give you the ability to recite it. And when we have recited to you, plural form, then follow its recitation. Then for us it is to make it clear. Inna alayna, plural form. So Ibn Taymiyyah says, he showed that in this verse, all these actions are done through angels, because the angels actually recite the Quran to the Prophet ﷺ. And then the Prophet listened to Jibreel ﷺ's recitation, and then Prophet ﷺ, do not hasten, listen first, and then recite after. And likewise the story of Yusuf and the other stories of Musa, Naqusu means Allah does it through the angels. You see, the ta'bir is through the angel. It is not an individual action. You see, so likewise whenever Allah, it has a different meaning. And in this verse, it is not Allah who, Ibn Taymiyyah says this is not a ta'wil, this is not a metaphor. This is not turning away from the apparent meaning. You see, because the apparent meaning, here, this is the apparent meaning, because it not only it is indicated by the context, but it is also in Arabic, when you do it through someone, and you say, we did it, but through the angel, this is correct. You see, this is not a ta'wil. People say, oh, but this is a ta'wil. This is not a ta'wil. What Ibn Taymiyyah explains in his book is if the Arabic language supports a meaning, it is not a ta'wil. A ta'wil would be like to say, like the Shia say, al-lulu wal-marjan, the pearl, and they refer to Hassan and Hussein. When the Arab made the Arabic language, they did not make these words to refer to Hassan and Hussein. So this is a metaphor, you see. But if the Arab used a certain verse with a meaning, this is not. It has many meanings, and you choose one meaning in this context. This is not a ta'wil. So saying, نَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ, it means I am closer through the angels. It is actually the angel. This is not a ta'wil. You see, this is not turning from the apparent meaning towards another meaning. And then you see this is the closeness to the angel. Then Mumtazul Haq, this is specific to the then there are some verses who mention the general closeness to of Allah to the creation. And he quoted this verse in Surah Baqarah, وَإِذَا سَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِ فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي وَلْيُؤْمِنُوا بِي لَعَلَّهُمْ يَرْشُدُونَ. And when my slaves ask you concerning me, I am indeed near. I respond to the invocation of the supplicants when he calls on me. So let them obey me and believe in me so they might be led aright. So Mumtazul Haq said, I am Qareeb, meaning I am there. I am there when you invoke me. This is not the meaning of this verse. Likewise, it is narrated in the two Sahih, verily you are not invoking one who is deaf or absent. You are only invoking one who hears and is near. Because people were invoking loudly, the Prophet said, you are not invoking someone who's deaf or absent. You are invoking one who hears and is near. He whom you are supplicating is nearer to any one of you than the neck of his camel. So here again, Ibn Taymiyyah says, some of the Salaf, they said in these verses, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ, it is proximity of knowledge. You see, some said this, but Ibn Taymiyyah said this is the wrong interpretation, but some said this. And some of them, they said, but this is still, they're going to say it's not a ta'wil. This is not a metaphor. Because they're going to say the context shows, because in Tabarani it is narrated that the people asked the Prophet ﷺ, should we invoke Allah quietly or loudly? And then this verse was revealed. So they said the context shows it is about listening and answering. You see, they didn't ask him, is Allah on the earth, is Allah's essence on the earth? They asked, and likewise in the hadith in the two Sahih, it is about, the one invoking him. So they say the context shows it is about Allah's listening to invocation. He didn't say to anybody else, I am closer to you at all the time. He only says about the one who is invoking Allah. So they're saying the context here shows that it is about listening to the invocation, and so it means Allah is with them in knowledge. So they say, still the Salaf say it's not a ta'wil, or some would say it's a ta'wil, but it is justified by the Quran. It is not like the ta'wil of the Jahmiyyah, because Allah said in the Quran, Allah is above his arsh, and this one say, I am close. So to combine between the two apparent meanings, we're going to say this one is by knowledge, and this is not like the Jahmiyyah. But Ibn Taymiyyah says, some say this, but for Ibn Taymiyyah, he says the right meaning here, it is not, he say, being close is not being close with the knowledge, because in the Arabic language, this is not like al-ma'iyya, being with. Because being with, in Arabic, it means al-musahaba al-mutlaqa, being companionship absolute. Sometimes being with, ana ma'akum, it can be by knowledge, in the context. Someone, it can be with the support, like he says to Musa and Harun, innani ma'akuma. And sometimes it can be for physical unity. But in the Arabic language, the word ma'a, it has all this meaning. You see, and then the context shows if the meaning implied is by the knowledge, like the Salaf explained, we've seen before. You see, when Allah said, ma'akum, aynama kuntum, it means with his knowledge. Sometimes it means with his support. And sometimes in the Arabic language, ma'a can mean physically there. Can do this after the prayer, because I have to finish some arguments after the prayer maybe.
Okay.
Half an hour. So definitely Wahdat al-Wujud is going to be for next month.
Okay.
So basically, what we're saying, Ibn Taymiyyah said some of the Salaf and some of the Khalaf from the Ahlul Hadith, they said in these verses, I am close, meaning, and Ibn Usaymin says as well in his explanation of Vasitiyah, some scholars say, I am close, meaning with this knowledge. But they say no, the word Qareeb, in fact, is some said, and they say it's not a ta'wil, or it is a ta'wil, but not like the ta'wil of the Jahmiya, because we are not doing a ta'wil with the rai or with our intelligence, we're doing because, but this is, for Ibn Taymiyyah, there's no ta'wil in it, you see. He says in his hadith, Shar Nuzul, he said, it is not said about this that he is near with his knowledge and his power, because his knowledge of everything and power of everything. And the people did not inquire and ask about this. You see, the asbab al-nuzul, the context, the people didn't ask about Allah's proximity, or Allah's essence proximity. They only ask about his nearness to those who invoke him and call him. You see, and then Ibn Taymiyyah says, this because Allah is close to the heart of the one who invokes him, he is thus nearer to him than the neck of his camel. So he's saying this closeness is in the heart of the believer. When the believer calls, this is what the Prophet said in hadith, the closest someone is in prayer, is in sujood, the closest to Allah. So this closeness is the closeness it's not the physical closeness of Allah, it is the closeness in the one who invokes Allah in his heart. When he remembers Allah, Allah is closest to him as well, out of remembrance. And Ibn Taymiyyah says, because in other hadiths, there is mention of Allah's closeness, and it is the closeness of his essence, like Allah descending on the third of the night, on the day of the Arafah and other places. This is the closeness of the essence. But in this verse, and in the hadith, the closeness mentioned about everyone, it is everyone invoking him. Or in sajda, it is not said about those not invoking him or those not. So this is said in this context, and this is the apparent meaning. This is not a ta'wil, we're not resorting to any distortion. So further on, we have now clarified the closeness of Allah. The Qurba, Mumtazul Haq said, Allah said, Inni qarib, meaning I am there. I mean, strange. How can you say I am close, meaning I am there? And then he quoted other verses. He said, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ يَعْلَمُ سِرَّكُمْ وَجَهْرَكُمْ وَيَعْلَمُ مَا تَكْسِبُونَ. And also, this is in Surah Al-An'am, verse number 3. And also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ إِلَهٌ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَهٌ وَهُوَ الْحَكِيمُ الْعَلِيمُ. This is in Surah Zukhruf. So in the first one, Allah says, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ. He's Allah in the heavens and on the earth. يَعْلَمُ سِرَّكُمْ. He knows what you conceal and what you reveal. And he knows what you earn. Again, I'm going to quote Mufti Muhammad Shafi in his Ma'arif al-Quran, 3rd volume, page 301. I invite the Deobundi layman to Google this and take this from their great scholar. And compare the explanation by him and the one by Mumtazul Haq. Mumtazul Haq says the verse, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ, and the verse, وَهُوَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ إِلَهٌ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَهٌ, means Allah is in the heavens and Allah is on the earth. Subhanallah. Every person of intelligence, he's not quoting any Imams of Tafsir, Ibn Abbas, Mujahid, any standard book of Tafsir. He's just doing a tafsir with his own, with Ibn Arabi influence, the Batini school of thought influence. You can see, when someone is bringing you tafsir, he's not quoting any of the Salaf. Even his own scholars, they said about the verse, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ. The third verse contains the consequential outcome of what was said in the first two verses, meaning of the first two verses of Surah Al-An'am. He said, it declares that Allah is the only being who is worthy of worship and obedience in all the heavens and the earth. So for Mufti Shafi Usmani, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ. He is Allah in the heavens and the earth. It does not mean that Allah's essence is in the heaven and the earth, but it means He is the only being who is worthy of worship in all the heavens and on the earth. SubhanAllah, look at totally one is the explanation of Tawheed and one is the explanation of the Jahmiyyah and the explanation of Ibn Arabi and Al-Hallaj and Rumi and all others. Subhanallah, this is a school of thought. You see, this is not coming out of the blue. The explanation Mumtazul Haq gave was not of his own. This is the school of thought of Wahdatul Wujud of Ibn Arabi. And inshallah we will see Fusus al-Hikam and all others, that this is the result of their sayings. And like what here it is to mention that Ibn Kathir said the scholars have two explanations of this verse in Surah Al-An'am. But they said they both reject the saying of the Jahmiyyah that Allah is by essence on the heavens and earth. Ibn Kathir say, some of the Salaf, they say, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ. Stop. Allah is fi samawat, meaning above the heavens. And then they carry on, وَفِي الْأَرْضِ يَعْلَمُ سِرَّكُمْ وَجَهْرَكُمْ. And in the heaven and on the earth, He knows your secret and your... So they made the sentence differently. And he said, no, some of the Salaf, they said, Allah is the worship in the heavens and the earth. Stop. وَيَعْلَمُ سِرَّكُمْ وَجَهْرَكُمْ. These are two explanations. Tabari, he preferred the explanation, وَهُوَ اللَّهُ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ. Stop. He is Allah by essence above the arsh. وَفِي الْأَرْضِ يَعْلَمُ. This is, both of this tafsir can be true, but they both rejected the explanation of Mumtazul Haq, that Allah is in the heaven by essence and on the earth by essence. And likewise about the verse, وَهُوَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ إِلَهٌ وَفِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَهٌ. This is the translation of Ma'arif al-Quran. He's the one who's God to be worshipped in the sky and God to be worshipped on the earth. So this is their own English translation of the Quran. It does not mean وَهُوَ الَّذِي فِي السَّمَاءِ إِلَهٌ. It does not وَفِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَهٌ. It does not mean that the essence of Allah is on the earth or the heaven. It means He is the one who is to be worshipped, the one who has the right of worship on the heavens and on the earth. So this is the explanation of all the Salaf. Then we come, he mentioned the verses about Allah being with the creation. وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ يَعْلَمُ مَا يَلِجُ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَمَا تَخْرُجُ مِنْهَا وَمَا يَنْزِلُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَمَا يَعْرُجُ فِيهَا وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. So he said, وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ, meaning Allah's essence is everywhere. And we've mentioned before Ibn Abdul Bar and many other books of the Salaf, they said Allah is with them with His knowledge. And this is not, again, like Ibn Taymiyyah said, this is not a ta'wil. Because in the Arabic, the word ma'a, with, it is used for musahaba al-mutlaqa, for absolute companionship. You see, even in other languages, if someone says, I am with Obama, or I am with, what's the other name? Mitt Romney. I am with him. It doesn't mean I'm physically with him. You see, or if I say I am with Manchester, it doesn't mean I am with Liverpool. It means I'm supporting him with, or I am with this group, meaning I support them, I give them money. It doesn't mean I am mixed with him. In all languages, the word with is used for many, and this is not a ta'wil, you see. Ibn Jarir Tabari, Ibn Abdul Bar, they all said about this. Sufyan al-Thawri, Ibn Masud, many others said He's above the throne and nothing is hidden from Him in the explanation of this verse. And likewise in Surah Al-Mujadalah. And they said, do you not see that Allah at the beginning mentioned knowledge and at the end He finished with knowledge? وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And He said, He knows what is in the heaven, what is on the earth, what comes from the earth. And likewise in Surah Al-Mujadalah, أَلَمْ تَرَ أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ مَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. So Allah is speaking about His knowledge and encompassing every place. There is no ما يكون من نجوى ثلاثة إلا هو رابعهم ولا خمسة إلا هو سادسهم ولا أدنى من ذلك ولا أكثر إلا هو معهم أينما كانوا ثم ينبئهم بما عملوا يوم القيامة إن الله بكل شيء عليم. Allah started the words with knowledge, He finishes with knowledge. This is what the Salaf said in their book. Ad-Dahak and Ibn Masud, Sufyan Thawri, all the Tabari mentions all these sayings of the Sahaba and others. And likewise, Mumtazul Haq, when he uses the verse, he didn't bring Ibn Abbas, he didn't bring Ibn Masud, he didn't bring any of the standard tafsir, Baghawi tafsir of the Salaf. Now we have two more verses. He says, Mumtazul Haq quoted the verse, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ. To Allah belongs the east and the west. فَأَيْنَمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَاسِعٌ عَلِيمٌ. To Allah belongs the east or west, so wherever you turn yourselves or your faces, there is the wajh of Allah. And he says, meaning everywhere you turn your face, there is Allah. And here again, Ibn Taymiyyah, he mentions in his Majmu' Fatawa, I said, because he when he wrote his Aqidah al-Wasitiyah, he spent some years in jail. People debated with him about the attributes, and then he showed them that what he wrote in his Wasitiyah was not his own sayings, but supported by the early scholars of all mazahib, not only the Hanbalis. And then when he was debating these people in Egypt, he said, bring me one saying of the scholars in which they do ta'wil. And they said they've been looking for years, and once one of them came to me and said, Imam al-Bayhaqi in his Asma wa Sifat mentioned that فَأَيْنَمَا تُبَلُّ فَثَمَّ وَجْهُ اللَّهِ, wherever you turn there is the face of Allah, there is wajhullah. He said Imam Shafi'i and Mujahid, the student of Ibn Abbas, they said wajhullah means qiblatullah. And they said to Ibn Taymiyyah, we have shown to you one narration, the Salaf did ta'wil. And Ibn Taymiyyah answered to them, they said this is not a ta'wil, because in this verse, wajh in Arabic, it is used for direction as well. And he said this is well known, this is not a ta'wil. Wajh sometimes is used for the attributes of Allah. He says, like some people have heard, he says some words in some contexts they use as an attribute, and in other places they're not used as an attribute of Allah. And he says in this verse, it is not because in some places wajh Allah is used as an attribute that everywhere it should be used as an attribute.
We're going to stop for the adhan. He's going to carry on after the adhan and carry on talking till 7 o'clock to the iqamah. And then we're going to do the question and answer session after the Salat al-Isha, inshaAllah ta'ala.
So I will finish with the last two verses, and at the end is going to be the biggest doubt brought by Mumtaz al-Haq. So here Ibn Taymiyyah said to the person who has been looking for ta'wil, he said, بل قلت هذه الآيات ليست من آيات صفات أصلا. He says this verse فإنما تولوا فثم وجه الله, this is at all not about dealing with the attributes of Allah. And the person said, أليس فيها ذكر الوجه? Is there not the mention of the wajh in it? He said, yeah. But the meaning is qiblatullah. And Ibn Taymiyyah said this is known in the Arabic language. فإن الوجه هو الجهة في لغة العرب. يقول قصة هذا الوجه سافرت إلى هذا الوجه أي هذه الجهة. When in Arabic you said, I travel to this wajh, it means to this direction. It is not a ta'wil. In this verse, according to Ibn Taymiyyah, we are not dealing with an attribute of Allah. So Imam Shafi'i and Imam Mujahid did not do any ta'wil. So why did Mumtaz al-Haq, doesn't he trust Imam Shafi'i? Doesn't he say you disrespect the Imams, but who are turning away from their explanation to the explanation that Allah is everywhere? And Ibn Taymiyyah said the context shows it, because Allah says later on, وَلِكُلِّ وِجْهَةٌ هُوَ مُوَلِّيهَا فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. He said for every nation there is a direction to which they turn their face. So he says when you look at the context, in another verse after this one, Allah mentions the direction wijhatullah. So here he mentioned wajh, and another after verse he mentions wijhatullah. And wijha is for the direction. So he said the two verses are very close to each other. Wijhatullah huwa muwalliha in the verse, فَإِنَّمَا تُوَلُّوا فَثَمَّ وَجْهَ اللَّهِ. And he said, if we look at the context, Allah says before, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ, meaning all the directions belongs to Him. They are the directions. You see, the east, the west, they all belong to Him. So Allah is speaking about the directions, not about His attribute of face. And He says that this attribution here, Qiblatullah, Wajhullah, it is an idafat tashrif, meaning it is like saying the house of Allah and the camel of Allah. It is attributing to Him all the direction, they belong to Allah. And here he said, Qiblatullah, Wajhullah means the direction of Allah. It is attribute to Allah, but it is not an attribute. It is like saying the house of Allah or the camel of Allah. But then he says, some of the Salaf, they said, okay, the meaning is Qibla. Here Wajhullah means Qiblatullah, but it means that Allah's essence is encompassing all the universe. We're going to see after in the last dub. And they said, okay, we accept that, but they say Allah is speaking about his attributes. Ibn Taymiyyah says some of the Salaf, they still said it is about the attribute of Allah, the attribute of face, but it is like in the hadith that إِذَا قَامَ أَحْدُكُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ قِبْلَ وَجْهِهِ. When one of you is standing in prayer, Allah is in front of him. And we're going to see, inshallah, this in the last part, that wherever you are, Allah's essence is in front of you. This is in reality, this is not a metaphor. So still for Ibn Taymiyyah in this verse, this is not the attribute of Allah. They say some understood it to be attribute of Allah, but they say it's Qiblatullah, but it means wherever you stand, Allah's face will be in front of you in reality, not in metaphor. So I'm coming now to the last point, and it is Mumtazul Haq make a circle like this. And he said, the Salafi, they say Allah is above the Arsh. The one who is on this side of the Arsh, he's going to be pointing at this side. The one who is above is going to be pointing at this side. So this is a contradiction. But Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, because he was debating with these people, he has written answers to all of them. And the answer is clear to this one. He has wrote a Risala in his Majmu' al-Fatawa, Risala al-Arsh wal-Ihata, but Allah encompassing everything. And the answer is in Sahih Bukhari. You see, all our answers, they're not in Fusus al-Hikam. Our answers are in Sahih Bukhari. And this is again mentioned by Imam Bukhari in Kitab Tawheed, in the chapter about Allah's hand. You see, Imam Bukhari is speaking about the attribute of Allah's hand. A Jew came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Oh Muhammad, Allah will hold the heaven on a finger, the mountain on a finger, and the trees on a finger, and all the creation on a finger. Then he will say, I am the king." On that, Allah's prophet smiled, with his premolar teeth became visible. And then he recited, they did not have estimated, no just estimate have they made of Allah, such as due to him. Meaning they have not estimated Allah as he should have been. Abdullah ibn Masud added, Allah's apostle smiled, meaning at the Jews, expressing his wonder and believing what he said. Tasdeeqan. So he's saying that the Prophet ﷺ, when the Jews said this, the Prophet smiled, approving what they said. And this is again mentioned in Kitab al-Tawheed, وَرَدَ al-Jahmiyyah. This narration refutes the Jahmiyyah. You see? إن الله يمسك السماوات على إصبعين والأرضين على إصبعين والجبال على إصبعين وشجر إصبعين والخلائق على إصبعين ثم يقول أنا الملك فضحك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم حتى بدت نواجذه ثم قرأ وما قدر الله حق قدره. And then Abdullah ibn Masud said فضحك رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم تعجبا وتصديقا له, meaning the Prophet laughed, approving his تصديقا له. So this is mentioned by Imam Bukhari in the chapter Bab Qawli Allah Ta'ala lima khalaqtu biyadayh. People are saying, oh, the hands of Allah should metaphorical. The Salaf did not understand the meaning. They just read it without interpreting. Why would Imam Bukhari mention the hadith about Allah holding the trees on one finger in the chapter lima khalaqtu biyadayh, meaning I have created Adam with my hands. So for him, he understood the meaning of hands, and he understood the meaning of fingers, and in connecting them together, he didn't say, oh, it doesn't have a meaning. But the meaning why I'm quoting this is, if all the heavens and the earth are in Allah's hands, Ibn Taymiyyah says, they're all in Allah's hands at this time on Judgment Day. So if someone is pointing above, he's going to point at Allah's essence. Someone is pointing down, it's still because all the heavens and the earth, they're going to be in Allah's hands. So Allah's essence will be encompassing. And Ibn Taymiyyah, when he speaks about this, he says, one, we should know that this wall compared to the kursi arsh, it is very minuscule. There is an authentic hadith about this, narrated by Ibn Abi Shayba and Bayhaqi in Asma wa Sifat. He said the kursi, obviously Allah said about his kursi that it encompasses the heavens and the earth. And then this hadith says the 7 heavens and the 7 earth are by the side of the kursi, but like a ring thrown into a desert. Meaning all the 7 heavens and the earth is like a ring thrown in this compared to the kursi. And such is the kursi with the throne. So it's like the kursi is like a ring compared to the throne in the desert. And like what the creation compared to the kursi is like a ring in the desert. So Allah is above this. And Ibn Taymiyyah has a lengthy discussion about this in his Risala. I'll carry on after the prayer. Inshallah, I'll just mention this after the prayer before the question answers. Because this is explaining this. Ibn Taymiyyah gives many examples to explain Allah's ihata. And inshallah, it will be beneficial.
Okay, we'll stop here now, and we're going to do the salah. And inshallah, we'll resume after Salatul Isha, bi'idhnillah.
So we mentioned previously the hadith in Sahih Bukhari, in which Allah will hold all the creation in one is the different parts of the creation in different fingers, and then he will ask who is the king. So at this time, Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah explained this in his Risala fi Arshiya wal Ihata in volume 6 of his Majmu' Fatawa. It is present there. So basically, one principle, people, they think they're very clever and they're making circles and they want to speak about Allah with their sense of mathematics, geographics, or astrophysics. But can they, like Allah said, they cannot estimate Allah, give him the right estimate, you see. How can you speak about Allah making signs and, like sometimes some people say, oh, but if Allah descends in the last third of the night, in one part of the earth is day, the other is night, so he'll be always doing nuzul. But this is when you compare Allah's essence with your essence. What is impossible for you is not impossible for Allah. Like they say, but if he does nuzul, his arsh is empty. No. The scholars, they said, his same time on his arsh, same time he does nuzul. So first, one has to understand that Allah, laysa kamithlihi shay. Nothing is comparable to him. So saying, making the earth like a circle, saying, oh, but if you say this, and with your limited intelligence, trying to deny the agreed upon meaning of the Quran, Hadith of the Salaf, that Allah is upon his arsh, this shows the limit of your intelligence. Not only you turn away from the clear sayings of the book, the clear saying of the Hadith, the Prophet ﷺ on the Hajj pointed to the sky, saying, Allahumma ashhad, have I transmitted? You deny all these texts, all the sayings of the Salaf, of even the Hanafis, of Imam Tahawi, just because of your limited intelligence, making a circle saying, oh, but if Allah is the one who is on this side of the earth is pointing is this side, but if Allah on the other is pointing, this is ridiculous. And this has been answered by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, because he's been debating, and all these doubts, they're ancient, you see, they're not new. He said in his Majmu' Fatawa, what Quran and Hadith show is that if Allah wants, he holds, meaning the heavens and the earth, as he would do it on Judgment Day. And if he wants, he doesn't do it. He's capable of doing it. This is on Judgment Day. He will hold the heaven and earth in this manner. You see, Imam Bukhari, he mentioned this hadith about Allah holding the heavens and the earth in his hand in Kitab Tawhid wa Rad al-Jahmiyah, and in the chapter of Allah's hand. So for him, he understood the meaning of hand, and he understood that his hand had fingers, and Allah will hold the creation in this finger. So Ibn Taymiyyah says, Allah will definitively, it is told by Quran and Hadith that Allah will hold the heaven and earth in his hand. But before he's capable of it, and he can hold it in a different manner, in any way. So when this is possible on Judgment Day, that Allah is holding everything in his heaven and earth, so someone who's pointing on this side of the earth is still Allah is going to still be above the first heaven, second, third, and the one who is above is still, because Allah's hand is encompassing all the creation, but separated from it and outside from it. It's not mixed with it. So Ibn Taymiyyah said, he said, if Allah is capable of holding his head and opening it like a ball, Allah, now Shaykh al-Islam is going to give some examples too, because they say if something is possible for the creation, how can you deny it with Allah? But we don't say Allah's holding is like the holding of the creation. But what he wants to say, what you see as a contradiction is not a contradiction for the creation. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. Allah has the highest example. We don't say it is like him. And he says that Allah's holding the heaven and the earth contains encompassing, you see, ihata in all cases, and Allah is separated from the creation and is not mixed. And he said, it is known to us that if one of us, and Allah has the highest example, if he has a mustard seed in his hand, if he wants to hold it, he can hold it and encompass the mustard seed. And if he wants, he does not hold it and puts it under him. In both cases, it is separate from him. So Allah's holding the heaven and earth does not mean Allah is mixed in it. He said when for the creation, a human being holds a mustard seed or a peanut or chickpea, it doesn't mean you're mixed with it or you're inside it. You're mixed with, you're in their jugular veins or you're in their houses. And secondly, if Allah wants to hold it, he holds it. If he wants, he leaves it. And in both cases, he's separate from it. He says, if the arsh at all time, Allah didn't say if it is, the kursi is encompassing all the heavens and the earth, but if the arsh is encompassing from all sides, and Allah is above it, encompassing at all time, some people objected to Ibn Taymiyyah, why is seeking Allah above and not below or right or left? Why do you then seek Allah above? Because if you seek Allah below, Ibn Taymiyyah said, no, this is wrong. Because seeking above is closer. The angel, when they fly up to Allah, they go straight, you see, they don't perform a hole on the earth, go on the other side and then go in the atmosphere on the first heaven from the other side. Or they don't go right or left. And he said, if someone seeks Allah left or below with the meaning of ulu, meaning he's seeking Allah below, but with the meaning that above the earth on the other side and millions and millions, he's seeking Allah below or right or left. It is like someone who comes from Morocco, Maghreb, from this side, and he wants to do Hajj, but he first goes to Khurasan, to Iran, and then he goes to Mecca. He says this seeking of Allah is not correct. It is incomplete and against fitrah. This is opposing fitrah because the seeker seeks his beloved from the closest way. If someone turns to Allah from a longer way and he turns away from the closest way, his desire is not correct. And this contradicts his fitrah. You see, he has gathered two opposite desires. His desire to seek Allah and he then seeking it from a further way, it's contradicting it. Then he said, if a person loves the Prophet, he would take the shortest way to him. If someone wants to travel at the time, let's suppose of the Prophet, you're going to take the shortest way to travel to him. If your love is dubious, meaning mutaraddid, and you doubt, he would take the longer way, like someone whose intelligence calls to the Prophet, but inside his desire has some doubts and he's called to his shahwa and others. This is, if someone says, if Allah is encompassing at all time, why don't you seek it above? See, if you don't seek him above, it means your fitrah either is corrupted or your desire is incomplete. Likewise, for calling someone and invoking him, he calls him from the closest way, and this else your aim is not fulfilled and is incomplete. He says, let's just suppose for the creation, it's not the same for Allah. We don't say it's the same. If someone is in a higher place or building, and you want to call him, you will face him and call him. You won't put your head in a well, and then you will call him. You see, this is only done with a weak intent. If you want to call someone above, but you put your head in a well, this is the examples given by Ibn Taymiyyah. So again, if someone wants to speak to someone, if someone wants to speak to the moon, if such was possible, just Ibn Taymiyyah gives the examples. And the moon is above him and in front of him at the same time, the fitrah would tell him to face the moon. It won't tell him to turn his back and say, oh, but it's still above me, so it will still reach him. So Sharia came to confirm the fitrah. Only the people of shirk, they corrupt the fitrah of the people. And only someone whose desire to turning to Allah is not complete would do so. Also, the Prophet ﷺ said in an agreed upon hadith, people should stop raising their eyes in prayers or their eyesight will not return to them. And all the scholars agree that looking at the sky is forbidden in prayer, not at all time. And Ibn Taymiyyah says, so if raising the eyes to the sky is forbidden, and there is no divinity above the sky, there would be no difference between raising the eyes to the sky in all directions. So I'm just going to finish with what Ibn Taymiyyah basically explained in this Risalah. Then if people say, oh, but because Ibn Taymiyyah spoke before that the heavens and the earth, what the Quran hadith said, they're spherical. You see the first heaven, second heaven above. This is what has been said, he said, by the scholars of the Salaf and others. The kursi is encompassing the heaven and the earth. But for the arsh, we don't know its exact shape. There's a hadith in Abu Dawud I've quoted saying it has the shape of a dome, but it is weak. But there are other texts showing that it is. But if the arsh is spherical, someone will say, but what you are implying is Allah himself is spherical. And Ibn Taymiyyah says, no. He says if someone has a chickpea in his hand or a boy is playing with a ball in his hand, it's just for an example for the creation. Does it mean that the boy or yourself in the chickpea, you're spherical? He says, so how can you say Allah is spherical? So these are all Ibn Taymiyyah clarified this, that Allah is above the seven heavens. On the day of judgment, he will definitively hold the heavens and the earth in his hands, like told by the Prophet ﷺ, and like Imam Bukhari used his narration to refute the Jahmiyah. And seeking him on that time, and before we don't know, but if we suppose the arsh is encompassing and Allah's essence is encompassing all the time, this would refute Mumtazul Haq's claim. How can they just make some claims and deny what is, agreed upon by Kitab Sunnah, by the fitrah, and even their small making circles, this does not oppose it. So definitively, Allah is above. For the one who is on this side of the earth, Allah is still above him. For the one who is on the other side, Allah is still going to be above him. How can you say because this is impossible for human body, so it will be impossible for Allah? Like saying, oh, but if Allah descends the third part of the night and one country is day and the other is night, how can he? This is because you're comparing Allah to the creation. You're saying for Allah, for the creation, it's impossible to be. When we say he's above, his direction is ulu. It's not. You see, we said the direction Allah is above the heavens and the earth, above the direction, absolute aboveness. We don't say he's only above here and not above there. So this is how Ibn Taymiyyah refuted them, and this is clear for whoever Allah has given intelligence. And inshallah, so we will stop here for the lecture. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad. كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. And inshallah, if Allah gives us life and strength, we will carry on and show the real creed of these people of Ibn Arabi. They say, Ismail Haqqi, they say because Allah is present everywhere, those who worship idols only worshipped Allah. Those who worship calf they all go to paradise. Allah is in the human being. Human being saying, I am Allah Haqq. This is true. Allah is present everywhere. And this is what we will see, inshallah, in a further lecture. It's a lengthy topic, but in this topic, I just wanted to refute all the arguments of Mumtazul Haqq and clarify, for the Deobundi layman, for them to ponder why Mufti Shafi Usman is giving this tafsir, why Mumtazul Haqq is giving this, why the Salaf, Imam Bukhari, Tirmizi, Abu Dawud, they say Allah fawqa arshihi, ilmuhu wa qudratu fi kulli makan, and why Mumtazul Haqq says no, and why, the Salaf, they use the expression ba'inan an khalqihi or bizatihi. So we just invoke Allah to guide us, and also the Deobundi layman for them, so they can reflect and abandon the taqlid of the elders and come to the way of the Salaf, of the way of Tawheed and Sunnah. Wa qulu qawli hadha.
We're going to have to share the microphone.
No problem.
Okay, we're going to go through some of the questions that we got here quickly. The first question is Zahid al-Qawthari a Deobandi? Is Al-Kawthari still alive now? And is he a follower of Ibn Arabi?
Basically, Zahid al-Kawthari, he's not a Deobundi scholar. But he's one of the Turkmen country from Asia. He's a Hanafi scholar, but his ta'assub for the Hanafi mazhab, the way he would insult the other, it is similar to the school of Deoband. He will do all these strange explanations to reject authentic hadith, and he would be a Sufi Naqshbandi, like them. The Deobandi, they're Naqshbandi and Chishti. So obviously he would come openly and insult the Imams. You see, of telling Imam Malik is criminal, Hafiz ibn Hajar will go to prostitute, Daraqutni and others, they are Mujassim, they're anthropomorphist and whatever. But Deobandi, they follow him a little bit, but they're trying to show that they are not the same, but in fact, they're very close. And obviously he's not alive, he's dead.
Is he a follower of Ibn Arabi?
Personally, I haven't come to his writing on Tasawwuf. He has a book about Tasawwuf in his and others, because he's Naqshbandi. Most of the later Naqshbandis, like Abdurrahman al-Jami, he's done an explanation of Fusus al-Hikam. So, this is just to say that most of them, the later Naqshbandi, Shazili, they're all gonna be upon the school of Ibn Arabi. They're gonna quote them, refer to them, and call him Sheikh al-Akbar. But I don't know direct quote, but...
The next question is, did Zakaria Kandlawi repent for the books such as Tabliki Nisab? And if so, where can I find this evidence? Is Ibn Arabi mentioned in Fazal Amal?
I have personally I didn't come up anything, even Deobandi or Salafi, Alul Hadith, any scholar saying he repented from his Fazal Amal. It still was sold and spread and never heard about this. And obviously Ibn Arabi is mentioned in Fazal Amal. He mentions in many places, like the murid should be like a dead body. I've heard this from some scholars. The murid with the shaykh should be like a dead body. That's what Ibn Arabi says. And he also mentions, in many places, in his Fazal Amal, some stories related to Wahdatul Wujud. And inshallah, the next time we will quote some, he mentioned some sayings of Rashid Ahmad Gangohi, that I am a liar, I'm not seeing, speaking to his sheikh, I am not seeing I am only your shadow, you and me is shirk upon shirk. So he's saying you and me is shirk upon shirk, we are not seeing, and it is only Allah, we're only Allah's shadows. And there are many in Fazail Sadaqat and many others, some clear references to the creed of Wahdatul Wujud, that Allah is present everywhere.
The next question is, which book do you advise the one who is a beginner in Aqidah with?
The one, the book of relating to the one they do in Pakistan, they have obviously Fathul Majid, Kitab Tawhid with Fathul Majid in the Durus. Asma wa Sifat, they have Aqidah Wasitiyah first, you see. So I don't know exactly how in Saudi University, if they have preliminaries. No, even in Pakistan first, they have a book of Ibn Usaymin, Aqidatul Muslim, something, a name like this, small one. And then they have Al-Wasitiyah. So obviously, Wasitiyah, I've seen in English a good explanation, obviously, of it, of Ibn Usaymin in 2 volumes. It's very easy, simple, and it speaks about all the attributes. You see what I've mentioned about the nearness of Allah, he also mentions it, and Ibn Taymiyyah, and he gives simple and clear examples. So obviously, Aqidah al-Wasitiyah is always a good, short, book, and all comprising. Tahawiyats, some of the topics are very complicated. Obviously, beginner, he will struggle to.
Next question, is Allah on his throne or above it?
All these meanings, they're the same. On and above. The Salaf, they use the ala al-arsh, fawqa al-arsh. You see? So all the meanings, they're the same. I don't know, where on and above, what's the difference exactly? But
okay. Did any of the Salaf refute tafweed or the sifat of Allah, Where did tafweed come from? I've heard that the madhab of the Salaf is to make tathabbut of the istinbat. What does this mean? Can you explain all of these terminologies?
Yeah, basically, the tafweez, this is what the later scholars, they said the Salaf did tafweez, meaning they said, don't do ta'wil. Like Imam Tirmizi in his Sunan, he say, it is the Jahmiyyah, they say the hand of Allah means the power of Allah. And then he mentioned Isaac ibn Rahawai saying, no, we do not say that the hand of Allah is the power of Allah. It is like Allah's hearing, seeing. We do not say, he said tashbih, meaning anthropomorphism, is only to say that Allah's hand is like the hand of the creation, like to say Allah's hearing and seeing is like the creation's hearing and seeing. So basically, the Salaf, they mention the attributes and they denied in their books that we do not say the hand of Allah means the power of Allah. But some of them, they said, but they just forbade ta'wil, but they left the meaning, they didn't give any meaning. So the hand of Allah, they didn't know what it means. Well, you can see, if they didn't understand, why would Imam Bukhari in the chapter of the hand of Allah mention the hadith of Allah holding the heaven and earth on his fingers? So obviously they understood the meaning of what the hand is. It is known to anybody, you see. The hand of Allah has fingers, but it is not like the hand of the creation, you see. So the Salaf didn't do tafweed of it. They didn't say, I don't know what the meaning is. Obviously, people who say the Salaf did tafweed, do you then say that Allah, because Isaac ibn Rahawai, like mentioned in Sunan Tirmizi, he linked the attribute of hand to the attribute of hearing and seeing. He say for hearing and seeing, it is the same with Allah's attribute of hand. So the people who say the Salaf did tafweed of the sifat, do they mean as well that they didn't know what seeing and hearing means? That when they speak about Allah, was Sami al Basir? No, we don't know what it means. So this is, totally illogical. This is attributing ignorance to the Salaf. Maybe you, Shuyukh, Ibn Arabi and others, kuffar, apostate, halaj, they're ignorant. But our aslaf, our pious ancestors, they were not ignorant of the meanings. And they used this hadith, Ibn Majah, Abu Dawud, the hadith of Allah's foot, putting his foot on the hell, Allah's attributes of hands, and other attributes, they put them in their books, refuting the Jahmiyyah. You see in the chapters, it's Bab fil Jahmiyyah or Bab fi man karatil Jahmiyyah. So if they didn't have any meanings, this hadith for them, why would they put them in a refuting someone? Can you refute someone with something you say, I don't know what its meaning is? The people who are saying Salaf do tafweez is totally, illogical. Where is to make that bit of istinbat? Wow, I don't know myself what it is, this bit of the istinbat.
Next question is, could you say what Imam Abu Hanifa said about where is Allah?
Imam Abu Hanifa, he said himself, but you see, because it is not directly quoted, you see, Imam Dhabi mentioned it in his Kitab al-Ulu, but the only thing is because it is not directly mentioned in this book, in his own book of Abu Hanifa, you see the people will say, but this is this Nad has this, or the one who wrote this. So basically, Imam Abu Hanifa, there are many narrations in Imam Hafiz Zahabi mentioned from him, and others have mentioned that he also said the same, that if someone says, I don't know where my Lord is, Imam Abu Hanifa say, you are kafir. Oh, you don't know where your Lord is. Allah clearly said Allah is above the heavens, above his earth. And then someone came to him, he said, but if I say Allah is above the arsh, but I don't know if his arsh is above the heavens or on the earth, he said, then you are kafir as well. This saying is well known from Abu Hanifa, and it is quoted by Ibn Abi Layth al-Hanafi in his Sharh Tahawiyah, and many other scholars. But the only reason I haven't quoted, because you see, these people, they're always going to do tashkik, putting doubts and say, but this is not this and that. And unfortunately, if we had some direct books of, like we have of Imam Bukhari, Abu Hanifa direct, but Imam Tahawi says that Allahu muhaytun bi khalqihi wa fawqahu. You see, Allah encompasses, like Ibn Taymiyyah said, this is the meaning of ihata, you see. So, encompasses the creation and is above it, encompassing not being mixed with it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encompasses the creation but is above it. So Imam Tahawi, I don't know how, they're still gonna find some strange excuses, but he's the highest reference and it is his own book,
The question here is, what is the belief of Ahlul Sunnah of where Allah is?
All these quotes, I've quoted maybe 4, 5, 6 books of the Salaf. The belief is clear. They say we all agree. Like Imam Al-Awza'i said, we used to say when like Imam Al-Bayhaqi narrated in a sense most, but we used to say when the Tabi'i were many, that Allah is fawqa sab'a samawat. You see, he didn't report, or some said he's everywhere, and this is not, they even agree, they cannot deny it. And like same Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, it has only great hufaz in it. The one of Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak. When he says, how should we know our Lord? He said, above the earth, separated from it. So, this is, there's even the fitrah of an intellect, everybody will seek Allah above. And one thing I remember, Mumtaz al-Haq saying, oh no, but the fitrah tells you feel Allah's presence everywhere. I don't know if he's having some delusion or what, or he's saying even the Christians say, the Christians, like quoted by the Salaf, they also say in the Injil, our Father who is above the heavens. They don't say our Father who is on earth or present everywhere. For them, it's an heresy to say. So I don't know why Mumtaz al-Haq says, maybe it's the people of Wahdatul Wujud feel Allah everywhere, but none of the Salaf in this ayat or said we feel the presence of Allah everywhere. The Muhaddith said no, they all Prophet pointed, the Sahaba pointed above the sky. They said fi sama, fawqa sama. Zainab bin Jash used to take pride over the wives of the Prophet, saying Allah married me fawqa sab'a samawat. She didn't feel what they feel. Obviously we have the feeling of Allah power and being above the arsh. But I don't know what kind of fitrah he's speaking about. It's the fitrah of the people of kashf, delusion, the fitrah of the people who say Fir'aun died upon Iman, or the fitrah of the people who said the mushriks, they were drowned in the ocean of Allah's ahadiyah, unicity, and they were right to worship idols. This is their fitrah, not the fitrah of anyone in the street you can catch.
And the last question is, why do they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is everywhere?
Basically, this is what Ibn Taymiyyah says. Ibn Taymiyyah says in his books, he says Allah never negated in any text, or the Prophet or the Salaf said Allah is not above the arsh. You see, there are some verses saying Allah is above the arsh. There are some verses saying Allah is with, some saying He is close, but none of the Salaf or the Quran Hadith says Allah is not above the arsh. So, we ourselves wonder how they can say Allah is everywhere. Did Prophet said Allahu fi kulli makan? You see, did Allah say Ana fi kulli makan? So, basically I've explained to you the reason why they say Allah is everywhere is because they are upon the Batini creed of the school of Wahdatul Wujud. This school, it started at the time of the Sahaba, and it mixed up the Greek philosophy, the creed of the Majus, and whatever people in these regions. And Al-Hallaj spoke about it, and others carried on hiding it in the Turuq Sufia. And Ibn Arabi explained it for them. Allah is present everywhere. Allah is present in the human being. He's present in the jugular vein. For them, everything is Allah. It's only your imagination makes you see as a human being. They have many explanations. We'll see. That they say that what you are is only a reflection in the mirror. You don't exist. You don't have an essence. It's like you have a person enters a room, he's got 100,000 mirrors. In one of the mirror he'll be eating, in one of the mirror he will be jumping, but they are all his images. So they're saying all the creation, we're all the reflection of the same essence. They have and this example is the example given by the Christians. They have other explanation. They say like water and snow, ice. Abdul Karim Al-Jili, he gives this explanation. They said the relation between the creation and Allah is the relation like the snow and water. He said it is the same essence, but some will come in the air, some will come with snow, some will come in water. But the essence is one. This is what the Christians say exactly about the Trinity. And for the reflection in the mirror, this is what Rahmatullah al-Hindi, he says as well. The Christian, to explain the Trinity, they said the relation father and son is like the relation someone looking at his shadow or the image in a mirror. So this explanation, none of the Salaf gave them. And this because they are in Turuq Sufiya, the Deobundis, Chisti, Naqshbandi and others, they have been taught this by the elders. That you don't exist, there's only one essence, La mawjuda illallah, there's only Allah's existence. Affirming two existences shirk, like they said in Fazal Sadaqat, you and me shirk upon shirk. Affirming two existences is shirk upon shirk. There's only one existence. It's only your imagination which, and once you have annihilated all the drugs they're taking to annihilate themselves, then you will see only the essence absolute. And at this, I mean, we're going to read all the stories, what Imdadullah Maqi said in Ziyal Qulub, all the universe will be in your control once you have, he says in it, we're going to see next time, in his Risala, Imdadullah Maqi, that when the Salik, meaning the Sufi researcher, wayfarer, they say, he has reached the highest peak, for them is Wahdatul Wujud Fana, they say he has reached the reality of humanhood, which is Al-Uluhiyah. And he said at this time he knows the truth that the human being, in apparent he's a human being, fi zahir wa fi batin he's Allah, he's God in batin, in himself. So and everything in the heavens and the earth, everything is given control to him. This is, I mean, concept of perfect human, insan kamil. They have lots of fairy tales, but we're gonna see. They believe in Imdadullah Maqi that human being reaches his haqiqah, which is al-uluhiyah. And then he calls other people to this truth. But then he said, we should, ifsha'u sirra rububiyah shirk. He said, this secret of lordship should not be divulgated to anyone, except the elite. They say, disclosing to everyone is shirk. And then they say in the other books, you should only give it to khawas. Like I've said at the beginning, what's the Irshad al-Muluk? He said, there's a secret knowledge, it's only for the khawas. The Prophet didn't taught everyone. And then they say, that he taught this secret knowledge to Ali, and like all the Turuq Sufiya, they have this, like the Shia, the Batini Silsila up to Ali, they don't have up to Abu Bakr, Umar or Uthman. And they said the secret knowledge Ali told to, a Prophet taught to Ali, we have this in our tariqah and we're not allowed to disclose it, else we will be killed. But this is what they believe, you see. They believe Wahdatul Wujud, you see, La mawjuda illallah. And what I quoted at the beginning, Darul Ulum Deoband, Allah har cheez mein mawjood hai. Allah har jagah mawjood hai. He's present everywhere. And har cheez mein, He's present in everything. So, I mean, this is Wahdatul Wujud. They're spreading these books openly. They're not even hiding. Fusus al-Hikam is clear. Anybody can look it online. It's people who worshipped idols, they only worshipped Allah. So.
And with that, we'll end the say Jazakallah khair to Ali Hassan Khan. Inshallah, we'll do a part 2 to this lecture sometime in the early part of New Year.